Douluo, the master of the nuclear soul. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276 Horrifying Fantasy. After seeing the other people's shocked expressions, Uranium suddenly smiled. It was very cold, but it also contained some very special meaning. This smile made the remaining 7 Soul Kings shudder. Don't worry, you will go to accompany him soon. This will be an unforgettable journey. As he spoke, Uranium took a step forward towards the other Soul Kings. Obviously, these Soul Kings came to hunt him and Zhu Zhuking, but at this moment, Uranium seemed to have become an opposing existence. The hunter became the prey. A thin and gloomy man couldn't help but take a step back. He watched the young man being killed in one round of fighting. Alarm bells rang in his heart. He instantly realized that the other party was not someone he could deal with, and no one present could deal with him. This is a monster. Everyone, don't worry about soul bones first. This guy is so powerful, why don't we rush over and chop him into meat paste, and then distribute the soul bones later? Even if we can't get soul bones, he must have money. It's not a wasted trip if we share some gold soul coins. Seeing that his companions around him were a little timid, the gloomy man Ye couldn't help but shout. Don't fall into his trap. He's just a kid who hasn't grown all his hair yet. He's only 14 or 15 years old. How can he kill the old bear in one round? Everyone, come together. Then, a slightly fat man with squinting eyes on the far left shouted loudly. His martial spirit flashed, his soul rings moved rhythmically, and he rushed up immediately. He rushed towards Uranium. The other Soul Kings who were a little afraid of fighting were immediately shocked. Various martial spirits were possessed, including Phantom Wolf, Silver Light Sword, Night Shadow Owl. Without any cooperation, they suddenly formed a killing situation of 7 people besieging. Soul Masters attacked from the left and right, in front, and above. The closest agile attack Spirit Master was already in sight, and he rushed towards Uranium at an incredibly fast speed, like a phantom. The agile attack Spirit Master who attacked was about 50 years old. He did not have the strong mental power of Uranium, but he knew where to attack after capturing the key. His hands suddenly turned into 2 sharp blades, and he pounced on them like lightning. The spirit of this agile attack Spirit Master was called Soul Breaking Bird. He was best at speed and arc attacks, and his attack power was extremely high. At this time, in order to kill Uranium in one breath, he had already used his 5th spirit skill. The whole person was like a huge black bird, bringing a touch of dark coldness in the air, and slashed straight towards Uranium and Zhu Zhuking. Stop! Uranium shouted in a low and cold voice. As if obeying an order, the soul-breaking bird Soul King in mid-air suddenly stagnated, and his whole body stopped in mid-air and fell to the ground. It was like a dead bird. Except for the rise and fall of the chest, it was no different from being dead. In his eyes, the outline of Uranium's radiation eye martial spirit had emerged. Weird and terrifying. His eyes were already in the shape of radiation eyes. In the air, in order to capture Uranium's figure, he stared at Uranium's every move intently. Naturally, he also saw Uranium's eyes, but the next moment, his eyes went black and he fell into the same treatment as the previous Bear Soul Master. This is the horror of the spiritual power Soul Master. Completely invincible at the same level. Even Helena from the original Golden Generation, if it weren't for Tang San's restraint, she could kill all the Shrek 7 devils alone. The mutated martial soul of Uranium Sharingan is originally of spiritual power attribute. Each increase of Magatama is equivalent to an awakening of the main martial soul. It is born with illusion, insight, copying, and other moves. When it comes to main Gekyo, it can even use pupil power to open a Gundam over 100 meters high. The high spiritual power is simply unimaginable. Uranium did not stop. After stunning a Soul King with a single glance, his figure suddenly blurred. The 2 strong attack Soul Kings in front immediately missed and looked around blankly. There was no one. There was no Zhu Zhuking, and no troublesome Uranium. What's going on? Why is there no one suddenly? The Phantom Wolf Soul Master's face turned a little bad. He would have run away earlier. How could he have thought it would be so troublesome, like a monster? Are you looking for me? Suddenly, a bone-chilling cold voice rang faintly beside his ear. The Phantom Wolf Soul Master's expression changed drastically. He didn't dare to look back. How can this be? Before the voice fell, the Phantom Wolf Soul Master fell down softly. Even his head hit heavily on the stone. If it weren't for the extraordinary physique of the Soul Master, he would have died. It is very simple for a spiritual Soul Master to fight against an ordinary Soul Master, not to mention that his Soul Master is better than others and is only one step away from the Soul Emperor. If he can't kill him instantly, he will have no face to see anyone. A mere Soul King, just an ant, how ridiculous. 2 people fell down in the field within a breath, and the remaining Soul Kings were in a dilemma for a while. Still fighting? If you fight again, you will be defeated. The siege situation suddenly became cold. The last 5 Soul Kings looked at each other and confirmed each other's thoughts. The next moment, the gloomy Soul Master Yak's weird cry suddenly exploded. Run! After hearing the signal, the 5 people no longer cared about the unknown lives of the friends they knew, and they all used their soul skills, then turned around and ran without hesitation. If they continued to fight, everyone would die in there. Run quickly. As long as the Green Mountains are there is no fear of running out of firewood. This is what these people thought. Uranium stood quietly in place, watching the group of Soul Kings disappear from sight after a few jumps, and couldn't help but sneer at the corner of his mouth. Run. If you don't run, how do you know what a thriller game is? With a slight smile, Uranium turned and walked towards the woods. The surrounding space was slightly turbulent. Yak crossed the fields beside the road, jumped into the ridge of the field, and kept rising and falling, rushing towards the direction of Shandao City in the distance. His face was pale, sweat kept dripping, and his mind was completely blank. It's terrible. Fortunately he didn't catch up. As long as another stick of incense is passed, I can return to Shandao City. Even if I am found in the city, I dare not kill me. While thinking, Yak began to comfort himself in his heart. The other Soul Kings, a slightly fat middle-aged man who looked like a rich businessman, a strong attack Soul Master, a thin Soul King who used a sword, and a man with an ordinary face with a gloomy face couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It's terrible. How could there be such a powerful Soul Master competition student? 3 Soul Kings were killed in less than half an incense stick? Are they still human? Damned on ye, my shoes are all covered with mud. One of the strong attack Soul Masters looked at the mud under his feet, and then thought about how he was almost scared by a student from the academy just now, and his heart was even more indignant. The latest novels are first published on liujishu.com. There is solid ground ahead. It won't be too late to shake it off with your soul power when you get on it. The leading agile attack spirit master Yak said nonchalantly. Not long after, the 5 people crossed the field and stepped on solid ground. Finally comfortable. After using his spirit power, the strong attack spirit master felt a little relieved when he saw that there was a clean area under his feet. But before he could continue walking, he hurriedly stopped and almost bumped into Yak, who was leading the way in front of him. Huh? What's wrong with you? The big man glanced at Yak in confusion. Why is he so pale? Hasn't he recovered yet? But when the big man looked forward and prepared to lead the way himself, his eyes suddenly shrank. For a moment, he was speechless. In front of the 5 people, there were 3 stiff corpses lying on the ground. Expressionless, bloodless faces, eyes closed, but no corpse spots on their bodies. Everyone was known to them. It's Liu San, Saiger, and Lasler. The slightly fat Soul King whispered. What's going on? Why are we still here? The skinny Silver Sword Soul Master couldn't help but tremble. It felt so strange. He always felt that something was looking at him. I don't know. As the leader, Yak shook his head. They had clearly found a direction, and after crossing the field and walking a distance, they would reach Shandao City. How come now, the bodies of the 3 of them were lying here? Suddenly, the voice of an ordinary man with a gloomy face sounded, with a hint of disbelief. Look, isn't this the grove where we just ambushed? And the posture of the 3 of them falling is exactly the same as before. The other 4 people turned around suddenly and saw the grove not far away that was making a sound with the breeze. And the 3 unchanged bodies on the ground. Suddenly, the most observant Silver Sword Soul Master pulled a corner of Yak. Huh? Yak looked back in confusion, but saw the pale face of the Silver Sword Soul Master. Yak, did you see it just now? His voice was trembling. As he spoke, he pointed to the body of the soul-breaking bird Soul Master on the ground. He seemed to smile. Yak's face changed drastically, and he suddenly looked at the body on the ground. It was broad daylight, but they felt a gust of cold wind passing through their spines. An inexplicable sense of horror gradually crept into their hearts. On the face of the soul-breaking bird soul master, the pale dead face had a familiar yet creepy smile. Obviously, the other two people did not have this smile. Yak looked at the other soul master in disbelief. But in the next blink of an eye, a creepy smile appeared on the face of the other soul master. He couldn't even tell whether he had been laughing for a long time or run. A fierce roar broke the silence here. There are still 5K in the evening. Chapter 277 The Greedy Are Doomed. In the blink of an eye, all 8 Soul Kings fell to the ground. As Uranium turned and walked towards the woods, the bodies of 5 Soul Kings began to tremble slightly. All of this was nothing but a mirage. With his mental power, it was extremely easy for Soul Kings whose soul power levels were not as good as his to fall into this situation. He didn't even spend any time on these people. Soul Saints are the big boss. Soon, Uranium came to the center of the woods. In his perception, many Soul Emperors had taken the opportunity to escape to the outside world. After seeing Uranium's amazing fighting power, even a fool should understand that this man is not simple. But it's too late to run now. As Uranium finished speaking, several Soul Emperors in the distance trembled instantly, and then knelt down at the same time. They fell into the illusion from Uranium. The eyes were no longer clear, but turned into the style of radiant eyes. As early as after leaving Xiandao City, he had already intentionally spread mental anchor points around. Like a big net, the purpose is to catch all the Soul Masters who have ideas about Zhu's Huking's soul bone, and even to capture able-bodied men to add manpower to his Dongfeng organization. Otherwise, he really can't recruit people. Those potential seed players, such as Shrek, the captains of the Royal Fighting Team, and the Elemental Team, are all the heirs who have been appointed by other families and other sects. If he runs over to grab them, isn't it looking for trouble? Moreover, he doesn't think that there are many benefits to training Soul Masters. His mental power alone is enough to catch Soul Saints. Why should he find geniuses to train from childhood? What he wants is immediate combat power, someone who can fight now and do things for him, not a loyal partner or subordinate, just like Kaiying. With the assistance of Lost, he will definitely be able to reach the level of title Douluo, and may even be a strong one among them. But the efficiency is too low. He was not afraid of the traitor. After catching the person, he would first put him in the illusion for 30 years of forced labor and brainwash him every day. Anyway, the speed of time was different. Although the more powerful the Soul Master was, the less likely he would be fooled by others, but his mental strength was stronger than these people. And it was much stronger. Moreover, being pressed in the illusion all the time was not good for the brain, and it was easy to leave sequelae. Moreover, the Douluo Continent was not like the modern world with all kinds of knowledge. If it was the modern world, once this illusion came out, it was estimated that countless people would be willing to pay any price to enjoy the virtual lifespan. But what if the theoretical knowledge of the Douluo Continent was learned in the illusion by relying on the different speed of time? This was learned by Uranium and Xiaoxu. Just like Xiaoxu once asked him to recall his original intention, everything in the illusion was decided by him. Moreover, he himself could not enter his own illusion, and he did not have much knowledge about the modern world in his mind. Even if he was given 100 years, he could not reason it out. Therefore, for Uranium, this way of manipulating illusions was like chicken ribs, but now, he thought of using this method to create some necessary organizational backbones for him, or brainwashed thugs. Anyway, if you want to steal soul bones, you have to kill people to get bones. Those who kill people will be killed. He did not kill anyone, but just let them live under a different identity, which was already very merciful. As Uranium turned his head and looked at the positions of the hidden Soul Masters, somehow, the Soul Saints and Soul Emperors present could not help but tremble in their hearts. They had a vague premonition in their hearts. A premonition of a great disaster. But as Soul Masters, they suppressed this bad feeling very well. They were not weak Soul Kings. Could it be that the captain of the second team of the Royal Fighting Team wanted to attack them as well? But the next second, Uranium's words fulfilled the ominous signs of these Soul Emperors. Since you are here, don't leave. Uranium smiled at a hidden tree crown. The next moment, a figure fell down without resistance. But Uranium caught it easily and casually supported it by the tree roots. He didn't even look at the other party, and let this Soul Emperor fall into the illusion easily. When he was still a Soul Sect, he could already pin down the Soul King. When he caught the Soul Porcupine, which was his 5th Soul Ring, He was so strong. Now, with the improvement of soul power, it is even easier to achieve this point. Unconsciously, Uranium's strength has begun to show in all aspects. The previous fight with the Soul King was just for fun. And now, because the Soul Emperors are too scattered, if they still take out the mind of playing, then someone will run away. Uranium simply uses all his abilities to pack these people away. How is it possible? A cry of surprise suddenly sounded in the forest. I saw a shadow passing through the air and falling in front of Uranium, and his clear old eyes flashed with surprise. It was an old man in a red robe. Meet old Zhu. For the top master of the Sharingan Dou royal family, Zhu King's personal guard, and a loyal person who was given the surname Zhu, Uranium did not hesitate to show respect and nodded slightly to him. Good boy, Uranium, I didn't expect you to have such a skill. Old Zhu was surprised and circled around Uranium several times in amazement. He didn't know that he could feel the breath of soul blown on Uranium. Moreover, even though old Zhu had known his soul power level through the information of the Soul Master competition, he was still shocked at this moment. How old is he? 59 level. I'm afraid that the title of the youngest Soul Emperor of Qin will be lost soon. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. Haha, why don't you come and help me, Elder Zhu? There are 3 soul saints here, and I'm afraid someone will disturb us. Uranium looked at the direction of the 3 soul saints and smiled softly. Oh? You want me to help you scavenge? If I take action, none of these people can escape. As Zhu King's personal bodyguard, Elder Zhu knew where his position was, and he also saw that Uranium had a promising future. He was also a close friend of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, so he took the initiative to propose. Looking at the 2 soul saints who were somewhat agitated in the distance through the Eye of Elements, Uranium no longer hesitated. Why don't I go to the north? There is another one ready to leave over there, and I'll trouble you with the 2 on the right. Just a soul saint, it's no problem. Elder Zhu shook his head, and the pressure of Soul Douluo was instantly generated, and the airwaves rolled, as if deliberately intimidating. Sure enough, the 2 soul saints in the distance who were watching Uranium and an old man whispering to each other felt a chill in their hearts. Low-level soul masters cannot discover high-level soul masters. Therefore, with the appearance of Zhu Lao, the soul saints did not leave, but as Zhu Lao's aura spread, everyone realized that something was wrong. Go. Immediately, a soul saint urged to send a voice message to the other side. But on the other side, in the direction of a soul emperor friend, there was no sound at all, nor any crisp sound of movement. It was as if no one had ever been there. He actually. Soul Saint Yifeng was shocked and angry. This was a high-level Soul Emperor, a level 68 strong attack system combat Soul Emperor. How could he die silently? It was at this moment that Soul Saint Yifeng broke out in a cold sweat. In his perception, all the Soul Emperors within his perception range closed their eyes silently. Although they were not dead, they were the same as the 8 Soul Kings outside the woods. The captain of the second team of the Royal Fighting Team is not as simple as imagined. No, this should not be his work. He is not that powerful. Could it be that there are other masters here? Then, thinking that he was already within the perception range of the Soul Douluo strong man, Yifeng could not care about so much, not even his friends, and immediately stepped on the tree trunk and rushed towards the direction of Sharingan Dou City. But the next moment, he immediately stopped his steps with a gloomy face. Uranium stood in front of Yifeng. Like a ghost, silent, as if teleporting. Obviously, the last moment, it was still hundreds of meters away. This speed, Gudong Soul Saint Yifeng couldn't help swallowing his saliva, and he didn't know that the sweat on his head was dripping. Even he couldn't catch up. You should sleep. Uranium quietly blocked in front of Soul Saint Yifeng. Could it be? This is a trap. Until the last moment before his consciousness disappeared, a flash of lightning suddenly flashed in Yifeng's mind. The last Soul Saint also fell to the ground. I feel like I'm too strong. Once I use my full strength, even Soul Saints are under my control. Mental power, no, pupil power, the two complement each other and seem to amplify each other. Seeing that the Soul Saint with the highest soul power, level 73, was also defeated by him, Uranium couldn't help but sigh. But I can't be considered invincible. At least Tang Sen, who was over level 50, could kill the elite Soul Saints of the Spirit Hall with a single glare of the purple extreme divine light. I'm just dealing with a small Soul Saint. I must remember that I'm powerful but not arrogant. Chapter 278, Illusionary Labor Reform, Dongfang Organization Member Training Base. Yellow sea of sand. Silence and no wind. The sun was hanging high in the sky, lavishing endless heat and light. Sand dunes were one after another, rolling up and down like unique tombstones. And on the shady side of a dune, sand suddenly rolled down with a rustling sound. The movement became louder and louder, and then a hand suddenly stretched out from the turbulent yellow sand. Then the next moment, the hand seemed to react, extremely excited and frantically grasping and scratching. First the palm, then the arm gushed out sand, the sand hole was rapidly expanded, and finally a middle-aged man's head was exposed. When this gray head was half exposed in the sand dune, the mouth was desperately opened as wide as possible, and after extremely weakly spitting out all the stuffy air in the chest, it greedily sucked in the scorching air. Accompanied by violent breathing, a small amount of sand was ejected from the middle-aged man's mouth and nasal cavity. Cough, cough, cough. Then, because the breathing was too intense, the middle-aged man had a violent cough. After coughing for a while, he finally recovered and opened his eyes. Although he was on the back of the dark sand dune, the scorching sun still pierced his pupils and he subconsciously squinted his eyes. But as all the scenes came into view, the smile on the face of the gloomy middle-aged man because he was alive also froze. The gloomy middle-aged man was Yak. Their previous experience was simply not an exaggeration to describe it as a nightmare. They seemed to be trapped in a ghost place, unable to leave or hide. No matter where they went, they would unknowingly return to the origin of the battle. Until Yin-Ji Soul Master couldn't help it, and proposed to split up into two groups. He went in the opposite direction alone to see if the two groups would meet again. But in the end, that was the beginning of a nightmare. Thinking of this, Yak shook his head with fear, trying not to remember the following scenes. The three corpses with weird smiles were too scary. They could actually communicate with his companions silently. Yak and his friends tried to use their soul skills, but it was useless. Instead, they used too much soul power and could not escape. In the end, they even waited for death in despair. Except for him, the other four people turned into smiling corpses. Because it was too horrifying, he dared not imagine the past scene again. But now, what he saw was not death, but a desert. Where is this? The world after death. He almost died of suffocation. When he took the first breath of air, the most dangerous moment was finally over. Yak panted for a while, recovered a little strength, and pulled himself out of the yellow sand with difficulty. After officially escaping from the dilemma of being buried alive, Yak had no strength to stand up. He knelt on the ground, panting constantly and coughing loudly at intervals. He spit. The sand in his mouth dyed his saliva light yellow. He picked his ears and blew his nose, then shook his hair with his hands to let the fine sand fall everywhere. These actions only lasted for a short while, and Yak felt a limit of his physical strength. He was so scared that he stopped immediately and changed from kneeling to half-kneeling. There was silence all around, without a trace of wind. The sun was bright and hot during the day, baking the yellow-brown desert. The desert looked plain at first glance, with only yellow everywhere and no green. The only mixed color was him. Suddenly, Yak's face froze. He saw people. And the other party also saw him. Could it be an enemy? No, I can't use my soul power now, I'm in danger. Yak thought secretly in his heart, but he was dumbfounded after groping around on his body. How come there is nothing on my body except clothes? Where is his bag? Where are his props? However, as another person approached, Yak saw the other person's face clearly and breathed a sigh of relief. He knew him. Moreover, it was not a pale face, but a living person who could exhale hot breath. Great, you're still alive, Siwon. Yak saw his familiar partner and immediately waved to him. But all this made Yak start to think about where exactly this place was. Soon, the two met again. He was a plump soul master with squinting eyes, whose martial soul was the flaming hedgehog, a very tricky defensive war soul king. Yes, I'm still alive, and everyone is still alive, and we're all still wondering when you can get here. Siwon narrowed his eyes and patted Yak's shoulder. What, you said everyone is here too? That's great, I'm not alone on the road to the underworld. Yak was overjoyed, and his gloomy face bloomed with a touch of genuine joy for the first time in a long time. Not alone, definitely not alone, after all, everyone is waiting for you, how can you not come? Siwon's tone suddenly became a little strange. By the way, is this really the world after death? It's all yellow sand? Just like the real thing. I felt like I was going to choke to death at that time. Haha, I just died, do you want me to die again? Yak said while looking at the situation around him. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book forum. However, he did not notice Siwon's somewhat gloomy look. Come with me. Now that you are here, we can start working. We have been hungry for 2 days without you. As Yak withdrew his gaze, Siwon's low voice also sounded. Oh. The smile on Yak's face froze visibly. Don't worry, we are not going to eat you. We are preparing to work in the mines. If you eat, you will have 3 meals. As if he realized that his tone was not right, Siwon immediately added. Huh? I was scared to death. I thought the first thing I did after I came out was to give my brothers extra meals. Yak wiped the sweat from his forehead and smiled embarrassedly. But then, Yak looked at the crystal sweat in his hand in astonishment. Aren't I dead? Why can I still sweat? Yak suddenly cried out in shock. He didn't even hear clearly why Siwon was talking about mining. Now, his attention was only focused on his own hands. Siwon's face became more gloomy. Yak felt that something was wrong with this world. Siwon, where is this? What kind of place is this? We are brothers who have traveled all over the world. We have seen all kinds of places in Douluo Continent. I am very unfamiliar with this place. Tell me the truth, where's this place? Yak asked immediately after seeing Siwon's strange look. Where is this place? Siwon couldn't help but sigh at Yak's step-by-step pressure. This is the land of divine punishment. A few words stunned Yak. What did you say? The gloomy middle-aged man couldn't help asking again. The land of divine punishment. Siwon whispered again with pain on his face. What does this mean, Siwon? After confirming that he heard it correctly, Yak forced himself to suppress the bad premonition in his heart and asked tremblingly. The land of divine punishment is the place where sinners atone for their sins after death. Now you and I are here. Every sinner who comes here needs to mine for 30 years as atonement. So your feeling is right. This is indeed the place after death, but it is also another real living world. Look, your heart is still beating. Siwon said a lot in one breath, but he still wanted to continue. I heard from the foreman that only after completing the atonement can you have the qualification to return to Douluo Continent, and only by joining a mysterious organization. Otherwise you will be forced to mine in this land of divine punishment until you die. In the 2 days since I came to this world, I have seen many people go crazy because they couldn't stand it. That mysterious organization is called Dongfeng. I heard that it was founded by a great existence dedicated to creating a new world. In other words, if we want to live again, we still have a chance, that is, after serving the 30-year sentence. We can compete for the qualification to join the Dongfeng organization with outstanding performance. Yak was stunned. His eyes gradually lost their brilliance. 30 years? The update of 10,000 words is completed and will continue tomorrow. By the way, the update will be changed to afternoon to 12 o'clock in the evening, not 2 or 3 o'clock in the middle of the night like now. Chapter 279, Camp in the Fantasy World. The sun rose higher and higher. The surface of the desert was boiling hot, and the air in the distance was distorted by the burning. 2 middle-aged men, one with a gloomy face and the other with a slightly fat body, slowly walked out of the back of the sand dune, like a drop of water, merging into the vast desert. There was a faint spiritual power in these 2 people, but at this moment they were covered in dust and their clothes were tattered. The scorching sun was like thousands of sharp arrows, shooting down from the sky and covering the entire desert. Yak and Siwon walked in the sun, and they felt like fish on a heated iron plate. In order to avoid being roasted, they could only try to walk on the shady side of the sand dune. Even so, after walking for a while, he felt a sharp consumption of physical strength. At the same time, a feeling of hunger was also faintly conveyed to him. Yak licked his lips were extremely dry, and it was difficult to swallow a mouthful of saliva. Dry mouth and tongue. Siwon, where's the camp you mentioned? And the place where I fell is so far away, how did you find it? Yak asked with some doubts when nothing happened on the way. It's not far. We'll get there after we go over that big sand dune. The camp is behind the sand dune to avoid being burned by the scorching sun. In addition, I found your trace because whenever someone appears in the land of divine punishment, there will be reminders and guidance. That's why I've arrived when you woke up. Siwon pointed to the tall sand dune in front of him, wiping his sweat and panting. But, when we get to the camp, Yak, you have to be careful. Don't think that you are a powerful soul king. If you are not careful, You will die. Sewing is Yak's good friend, and he has stayed in this so-called land of divine punishment for 2 whole days. If he doesn't tell him the rules of the camp, he will die. Oh? Why? Si Wang's face gradually became solemn. Here, Soul King is the lowest level, and there are many Soul Emperors and Soul Saints. The camp is not big, with only about 30 people living in it, but there are 25 centers inside, and the rest are all staff members of the Divine Punishment Land. The manager is the highest, followed by the law enforcers, scholars, supervisors, and even the cooks. Their soul power is not lower than level 80, which is simply terrifying. When you arrive, we should start working. You said start working. Wait, it can't really be a 30-year mining life. Don't you want to go crazy? Suddenly, Yorkei was shocked. Otherwise, you and we are a group. If you don't arrive, we naturally can't start. Only by working can we have food. Otherwise, look at this vast desert, where can you get food? You will starve to death in less than 3 days. Si Wang sneered and pointed to the endless yellow sand dunes around. Nothing to eat? Suddenly, Yorkei shuddered. So, there is no choice, right? So, you accept your fate. Yak looked a little depressed, his legs and feet softened, and he simply sat down on the sand. He looked at the endless desert, watching the monotonous and boring yellow spread out, and finally mixed with the blue of the sky. The scorching sun made the air twist wildly. Yak suddenly felt that the whole desert was like a madman who was calm on the surface, but in fact, he was already hopeless. Here, he would be melted and driven crazy sooner or later. Don't think about it, let's go quickly, it's not noon yet, maybe everyone will be together, and we can have a lunch, otherwise you will continue to starve. Sewin didn't have so many distracting thoughts, and stood directly beside Yak and pulled him up. Perhaps, his thoughts had been worn away in just 2 days. It was noon, and the sun was not as hot as it was at noon, but it was still unbearable. 2 figures slowly climbed to the top of a towering sand dune. They started climbing from the back of the dune, and it was obvious that they were going to climb over it. They had a layer of clothes on their heads, their noses and mouths were covered tightly, but their eyes were exposed, and there was also chestnut hair on their foreheads. It was Yak and Siwon. The top of the dune was just a few steps away, and the sunlight shone over, making Yak squint his eyes. The two continued to trek in the desert under the scorching sun. Unconsciously, the sand dunes began to appear next to Yak. What is that? In the blurred vision, Yak found a huge black shadow entrenched at the foot of the dune. As he got closer, Yak's expression suddenly changed slightly. As a Soul King, he could see clearly at this moment that it was a somewhat large camp. We are finally here. Looking at the smoke, it should be noon. Soen glanced at the slowly rising white fireworks and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Now that everyone was together, they could finally have a meal. In the past 2 days, except for water, the 7 of them had been hungry. Seeing that others had broth and black bread to eat, they could only smell the fragrance and sigh. The taste was too tiring. Soon, the 2 of them climbed over the hill and came to the front of the camp. What came into view was a row of low bungalows, built entirely of white soil and wood, like small bunkers, with doors and windows, and under the scorching sun, they were shining with waves of dazzling white light. But what was amazing was that these bungalows were scattered around the camp in a circular shape. In the center of the camp, a huge brazier was left, and at the edge of the camp, wooden fences surrounded the camp. The latest novels are published on the 69th book bar. Between the bungalow and the brazier, there is a shady place like a corridor built with a tarpaulin-like roof. There are tables and chairs extending continuously and evenly distributed inside, which vaguely presents a classroom-like layout, and the podium is near the brazier. Is this the camp? Why don't I see anyone? Yak suddenly found an abnormal place. Although this camp is large and has a rich layout, and there seems to be a well in the corner, it is not popular. How can there be no one? Look, isn't it coming? Soen pulled the corner of his mouth and pointed in a direction. Yak looked over quickly, his face slightly condensed. Not far from the camp, there seems to be a sand dune cave that rises abruptly. The entrance of the cave is about 5 meters high. Torches are inserted near the cave, forming a man-made road. This also illuminates the environment of the cave. It can be seen with the naked eye that there are torches attached to the wall at the top of the cave to avoid being too dark and unable to see the road clearly. At this moment, more than 20 people were walking out slowly, each carrying a bamboo basket half a person tall on their backs. The golden and black stones in the bamboo basket attracted Yak's attention. Yak looked at the stone. The stone was oval in shape, standing silently in the bamboo basket. The surface of the boulder was faintly shining with a slight metallic luster, but it was bumpy and completely insulated from the word smooth. There were countless tiny holes. What was more strange was that from these tiny holes, like sesame seeds, a warm breath kept coming out. Is this the golden granite? Golden granite is a mixed ore of iron, gold, ether and other special minerals. Depending on the different origins, the ingredients and proportions of the golden granite are not the same. He had also seen this kind of stone being auctioned, and the auctioneer had initially inferred that these golden granites contained rich soul power. Even a chest-sized golden granite could be made into a special soul power transmission weapon. It can reduce the soul power consumption of soul masters in combat, or amplify certain soul skills. Unfortunately, extracting the essence from the huge and heavy golden granite requires specific means. Chapter 280 True and False. I didn't realize you were so knowledgeable. That's right, that's the golden granite, but it's different from the rare golden granite on the mainland. It can suppress soul power. Look, the soul master in the front is identified soul saint, but now he can't walk with a stone on his back. What a irony. Si Weng laughed grimly. Among the soul masters who walked out of the cave, the leader was the soul saint Yifeng, who had fought with uranium before. However, he was old and carrying a huge golden granite on his back. Under the suppression of soul power, he was shaking 3 times with every step. It was miserable. A great soul master could easily carry a huge stone of this level, but he was carrying a special golden granite. Suddenly, there was a sound of a door opening in the silent camp. It seems that you're all here. A tall old man in a silver-gray robe with an old face pushed open the door and walked out slowly, with a pair of turbid eyes on Yak. The old man was obviously quite old, but although he had a head full of white hair, his hidden aura showed the two of them that he was extraordinary. Greetings, Lord Supervisor. When Suing saw the old man, his face suddenly changed, and he quickly bent down and bowed with respect. The old man waved his hand gently, looked at Yake who looked nervous, and smiled. Don't be nervous, I think you don't know what the rules of the camp are, I will teach you. Yake nodded quickly, he was also confused. Why did he come here when the captain of the siege team 2 of the royal fighting died? Could it be that everyone in Douluo Continent should come here after death? This is the land of divine punishment. If ordinary soul masters have no sins in their lives, they will be reincarnated peacefully. But if you die for trying to kill and rob, then this is your destination. This place is the 3rd level camp. There are many like this in the whole desert. I believe Suing has also told you your mission. Yes, it is mining. It's just simple mining. Just dig out the golden granite and carry it to the flat land. If you carry 30 bamboo baskets in a day, you will complete the mission. If you continue to carry, the extra will be converted into points. For example, you can exchange points to reduce your sentence, or exchange them for delicious food to satisfy your appetite. And here, except for His Majesty Kronos, the God King of the East Wind, who can take people away from here and return to the mainland, there is only one last way. The old man said slowly. The last way? What is that? After hearing that there was still a way to survive, Yak's eyes lit up. This hellhole, there is probably not even a living thing in the whole desert, let alone soul beasts, only sand. Obviously, he has no ability to resist except to obey. And now, if he can get out as soon as possible, he is willing to do anything. He is the Soul King. If he can go back, he will never dare to do such a thing of killing and robbing again. He will definitely be honest and find a proper job and live a stable life. The last way is to cultivate to the realm of Soul Douluo, and then replace me and guard here for the rest of my life. You see, I was once a prisoner in this land of divine punishment. The white-haired old man smiled sinisterly, staring at Yake's pale expression, and mocked him. You want to live, but you don't want to be a dog of the East Wind. It's hard for me to deal with it. Why don't you just eat dirt here for the rest of your life like me? If you still want to return to Douluo Continent, you can only behave yourself well and wait for the arrival of Kronos, the God King. Yake was stunned. Spend your whole life in his hellhole? Suddenly, a feeling of despair or relief rose in his heart. At least, he could still be saved and would not really die in the siege of the captain of the 2nd team of the royal fighting team. I understand, Lord Supervisor. Finally, Yake slowly lowered his head and said with a slightly stiff look. He didn't want to die yet. If he could live, he was willing to give up all his chips, even his freedom. It was nothing more than selling himself to an organization under the command of a god. It might be a good thing for him to have such an opportunity. This idea was also the idea of all the prisoners in this camp. There was no soul beast in this desert, only the scorching sun that existed since ancient times. Naturally, if you want to escape from here, you will starve to death in 3 days at most. It's good to be sensible. Haha, okay, you follow Siwon. It should be lunchtime now. Eat well. You will be tired in the afternoon. The old man put away his gloomy face, smiled and patted Yake on the shoulder, and then he returned to his room. But when the old man just returned to the house, the smile on his face that was as bright as an old chrysanthemum froze in an instant. The next moment, the old man slowly relaxed his body, his hands fell down, and he stood stiffly behind the door, motionless. At this moment, he had lost all the aura of a soul Douluo strong man, like a mountain or a stone. If you have to make an analogy, he is like the NPC in the game. Without the conversation of the players and receiving tasks, he will just stand there quietly, not eating or drinking. The silver-robed old man is the NPC of this god's punishment land. There is only one camp in this desert. And this god's punishment land is just an illusion. But this illusion was prepared by a soul master specifically for these soul kings, soul emperors, and soul saints. This kind of burden is a bit too much for even my spiritual power, which can be called the level of a title Douluo of spiritual attributes. Uranium stood in the bushes, gathering the scattered soul emperor bodies together, and said in pain while covering his head. The latest novel is published on 69 Shuba. Ordinary spirit masters don't have this kind of illusion that makes a group of people dream and keep fainting. Even their dreams are extremely real, which can be called a second life. Even the spirit saint of more than 70 levels, the leader of Kanghu Academy, Kanming Xinyan, can torture Tang San with the special nature of his martial spirit and let him see his most painful illusion. But in the end, he has to wait until he reaches the title of Douluo to see what kind of torture Tang San is suffering. Even like uranium, freely controlling the illusion is simply a fantasy in the eyes of other spirit masters. Uranium, if you're like this, there will be a competition next. If you are asked to play, can you bury it? Now your mental power is all concentrated on these spirit masters. What if? Zhu's Huking saw that uranium looked like he had a headache, and frowned beautifully, and couldn't help but worry. There will be more and more powerful people in the next Soul Master competition, and after she appears, she will definitely be targeted in the next battle, and she will no longer be as strong as at the beginning. Don't worry, I was just testing the speed of time flow between the illusion and reality. In about a month, these guys will be brainwashed by my arrangement in the illusion and eventually be used by me. Moreover, I am not without the strength to fight now. Even if I don't use my mental power, I have other moves to deal with other Soul Master teams. Shaking his head, Uranium smiled bitterly at Zhu's Huking. Okay, leave the bodies of these people to Elder Zhu, and let him help arrange for them to be taken care of in a small village nearby. I have a severe headache, so I'm going to go back and rest first. Zhu's Huking nodded gently, supported Uranium, and walked towards the direction of Xiandao City. This little guy is really good at ordering people around. I'm already old. Forget it, let's just give him some face. He can kill soul emperors at the age of less than 20, and even kill soul saints by himself. He has a bright future. Old Zhu smiled bitterly and shook his head. He turned his head to look at the bodies of the soul masters lying on the ground like dead pigs, and a hint of coldness flashed in his eyes. In less than a moment, Uranium and Zhu's Huking returned to Xiandao City. Chapter 281. The time has come. After more than a week, Zhu's Huking's fame in Xiandao Royal Academy has become more and more famous. Whether it is because of her strong strength or her elegant temperament like an iceberg, all the audiences who have watched Zhu's Huking's battles can't help but be amazed. There is no other reason. Zhu's Huking's fighting style that cannot be targeted is really unheard of. Originally, after the debut of the Thunder Academy team, Zhu's Huking's strange shadow appeared and then attacked instantly. This kind of fighting method has been known to everyone. Naturally, there are also a group of academy leaders who pondered whether they can suppress Zhu's Huking, the vice-captain of the Royal Dao second team. In the end, a solution that is not a solution was found. That is, the auxiliary and controlled type soul masters are back-to-back in the back, while the strong attack and agility attack soul masters who attack from the front pay more attention to the back of their teammates. Once Zhu's Huking appears, they will go all out and try to defeat her at once. But when she came on the court for the second time, All the targeting became useless. Zhu's Huking threw a package into the sky and then blew it up in the air. In an instant, countless smoke and haze covered the sky. Although the dust had not yet fallen, the sunlight on the competition stage had been blocked and it was gray. And then, it was a massacre without resistance. Whenever a soul skill was about to fall on Zhu's Huking, she would suddenly disappear and then appear behind a team member. The netherworld claws shone like a cold front. No soul master could catch her figure. In just 10 seconds, after the smoke and dust were dispersed, the battle also ended. All of this was attributed to Zhu's Huking's soul bone from the dark bloodthorn cat. When she was in the shadow area, her soul power would recover quickly, and her physical fitness, including strength and speed, would increase to a certain extent. The most important thing was the soul bone skill, Shadow Fold. She could quickly shuttle between the nearby shadow areas without any damage. If it was dark, no soul master would be her opponent, but that was not always the case, because there would always be soul masters with martial spirits that could restrain her. For example, the sun martial spirit, such as the special martial spirit whose soul skill could dispel the surrounding darkness, so she was not invincible. At most she had few rivals. It was also because of the special agility that Zhu's Huking showed that all the college teams were working hard to study her flaws. After all, they might encounter them. How is it? It feels good to be famous, right? I just saw a bunch of fans shouting your name in the audience. In the rest area, Uranium's somewhat rough face barely raised a smile and teased Zhu's Huking. I don't care about them. You know, I don't need to be famous. Besides, other college teams are getting harder and harder to beat. Zhu's Huking shook her head lightly and took the towel sent by other players to wipe the sweat off her head. She had just finished today's game. Her opponent was obviously well prepared, but her hard power was not enough. She was defeated one by one. But no matter what, this feeling of being targeted gave her a bad premonition. In the world of soul masters, special martial spirits are not uncommon. Maybe in the next game, or maybe the next game, she will be at risk of losing. By the way, how is your body? For 7 days, you have been mobilizing your mental power day and night to maintain the illusion. Can you still bear it? Anyway, judging from the time, your illusion has been around for 7 years. It's almost time. Why not close it now? After seeing the yellow face of Uranium, Zhu's Huking couldn't help but worry. It doesn't matter. This is also a test for me. After all, my mental power is too high. Although there is no unstable foundation, it is a good thing to polish it more. Uranium smiled and rejected Zhu's Huking's kindness. 1 day in reality, 1 year in illusion. However, if you say that other teams are getting harder and harder to beat, if you encounter a more famous team, such as Shrek, Kamikaze Academy, Shianshu Academy, let me deal with them. These are top teams and are qualified to fight with me. Suddenly, Uranium thought of something. Logically speaking, after so many days of fighting, it's time to encounter Shrek Academy, right? He was thinking that he would directly encounter Shrek Academy several times in the preliminaries, so that they would not even be qualified to participate in the promotion match. After the preliminaries, the top 5 teams in Dou City can enter the promotion match and get a ticket to Wuhan City. In other words, the promotion match is played in Wuhan City, not Dou City. At the beginning, he made a bold statement that the Shrek team could not even go to Wuhan City, but now, he has not encountered Shrek once, let alone lowering their winning rate. Could it be that someone is secretly manipulating to reduce the head-on collisions between strong teams to avoid reducing the number of players in the finals? Or is it just bad luck that we didn't encounter them? Touching his chin, Uranium thought. Okay, Uranium, don't think about it, you should have a good rest first. Hey, the Shrek team is going to play a game, don't you want to come and see? Suddenly, Zhu's Huking said in surprise, pulled Uranium's sleeve, and pointed to the location of a competition stage. Uranium has always been concerned about the Shrek team's game, but it is limited to watching when he has time, and if he doesn't have time, he just pretends not to see it. But at this moment, the game of the Royal Fighting Team II has just ended, and they haven't left yet, and the Shrek team's game is about to start. Huh? No, why did the student team that played against the Shrek team give up and admit defeat? Before Uranium could concentrate on looking, Uranium heard the audience on the surrounding viewing platforms booing loudly. Oh? Admitted defeat. At this time, Uranium became interested. It seems that this is the first team that Shrek has encountered recently to admit defeat? The latest novels are first published on the 6th 9-book bar. Zhu Qing, I'm going out for a while, I have something to do. Uranium thought of something and raised the corner of his mouth slightly. Nothing, just thought of some interesting things, maybe I can go and see. Uranium's face looked a little better, but in his slightly narrowed eyes, a cold light flashed silently. Okay, I'll go back to the academy to rest. Since you wanted to go out and relax, Zhu's Huqing didn't want to persuade her, so she packed up with the other female team members and headed towards the Shan Dou Royal Academy. Since the more than 20 Soul Kings, Soul Emperors, and Soul Saints who followed her and knew out of Shan Dou City a week ago suddenly disappeared and never appeared again, her life has become peaceful, and she no longer feels any prying eyes or blazing gazes. Those who have some brains, after seeing that the target is safe and sound, and that none of the other Soul Masters who intended to kill and rob have escaped, naturally understand that they are all dead, and none of them survived. So, they gave up this dark idea. As for those brainless spirit masters, they were already in the illusion of uranium, experiencing the happy life of working from sunrise to sunset. At this moment, as the games of other college teams continued, Tang San suddenly raised his head and looked at the master and said, "Teacher, I want to go back to the college first." The master was stunned for a moment. "You don't want to watch the game?" Tang San nodded. "I am not proficient in the 3-aperture control heart." "You are right. Instead of studying others, it is better to strengthen myself. The strength of these 5 elemental colleges should be similar to that of the Elephant Armor sect. Although they are strong, as you said, if we fight with all our strength, it is not too difficult to defeat them. For our real opponents, we should strengthen our own strength as much as possible." With that, Tang San changed his clothes and quietly slipped out of the Shan Dou Great Soul Fighting Arena. On the other side of the contestants' viewing platform, a pair of gloomy eyes were always staring at Tang San. When Tang San disappeared from the viewing platform, the gloomy eyes also disappeared. Chapter 282, Eliminate All Evil. At this time, the Great Soul Fighting Arena was relatively quiet, except for some spectators who didn't buy tickets and some ticket scalpers. After leaving the Great Soul Fighting Arena, Tang San walked quickly towards the direction of Shrek Academy. At this time, he was thinking about how to make himself stronger and the secret of the transformation of the blue-silver grass. It was still morning, the sun was shining brightly, and the warm light shining on his body gave him a warm feeling. Tang San liked the feeling of basking in the sun like this, thinking about the problem of cultivation while walking, and his whole body was relaxed and indescribably comfortable. This silly boy, his mental power has not reached a certain level, and he doesn't even know that he is walking towards the outside of Shan Dou City. The figure of Uranium suddenly appeared from the shadow, watching Tang San stupidly walking towards the city gate, and couldn't help but sigh. In his mental perception, there was also a rather cold breath following Tang San, not far away. The limitations of the Kanming spirit are there after all. Although it can also control thoughts and manipulate illusions, it cannot be used at a long distance like uranium. Once it exceeds a certain distance and leaves its control range, Tang San will wake up immediately. As Tang San gets closer to the gate of Shan Dou City, an old man in a white robe walks out of the shadows in another place, follows Tang San's footsteps, and slowly walks out of Shan Dou City. A hint of coldness appeared at the corner of Xinlian's mouth. "I have been looking for an opportunity these days, but unfortunately, you have been with other students of Shrek Academy, so I can't make a move. But you still gave me this opportunity today. It's a pity that you are not a disciple of my Kanghu Academy." Xinlian saw that Tang San had left Shan Dou City and walked slowly towards the woods not far away. Finally, he smiled and said, "It's just that you are too outstanding. Although the Shrek Academy team is strong, the real strongest point is you. As long as you disappear from this world, then our Kanghu Academy will have the possibility of advancing to the next round. But even if Shrek is gone, there are still the Royal Fighting Team II, Xianshu, Shenfeng, Thunder, Xiangjia, and Shihiro. Your Kanghu Academy has no chance." Suddenly, a mocking voice exploded in Xinlian's ears. "That's true, but Xiangjia and Thunder have lost several games. As long as our Kanghu Academy loses a few less times, there is still great hope." Xinlian's mind didn't turn around for a while, and refuted the owner of the mocking voice. But the next moment, Xinlian's face suddenly changed. "Who?" The old man in white robe turned around hurriedly, but found that there was no one around. It was extremely quiet, as if the mocking voice just now was just his imagination. Huh? A lonely wind slowly blew across the old man's face. Xinian's face suddenly became extremely ugly. What's going on? This is near the gate of Xiandao City. Where are all the people? Who was that person just now? Could it be that he knew my plan and was going to tip off Shrek Academy? Looking around, Xinian was a little entangled. Should he really kill Tang San? Obviously, his idea of killing Tang San has been known to others, but now he didn't do it after all. If he is held accountable in the future, he will just apologize. And if he really kills Tang San, he will ruin the reputation of Kanghu Academy. Seeing Tang San walking further and further away, Xinian began to hesitate. If Tang San is let go now, he may not have a chance in the future, and then, relying on the strength of the Kanghu Academy team, he may not even be able to enter the promotion match. If he does not let him go, it is possible to expose his murderous intentions. No, someone has already known about it. The next moment, Xinian smiled, and his smile made the wrinkles on his face look like they could kill a fly. A pair of gloomy eyes flashed with cold light. Yes, it has been known for a long time. It sounds like a young man. So this time I can only let Tang San go first, otherwise if those old men from Shrek know about it, 2 fists cannot beat 4 hands, and my life is in danger. How can the hope of the Kanghu Academy team's promotion be more important than my safety? In the end, Xinian looked around carefully and decided to retreat first and return to the hotel where the Kanghu Academy team was stationed. But as soon as he turned around, he saw the streets around him that were still lifeless and the dead silent city gate. For a moment, Xinian was stunned and stood there. It's very wrong. It's very wrong here. Xinian murmured in a low voice. Everything here gave him a very special feeling. A very familiar, but vague subtle feeling. Could it be? Suddenly, Xinian's face changed drastically. The Kanmeng Wuhan, possessed. Without hesitation, Xinian sat cross-legged on the spot, closed his eyes, used all his mental power to sense the surroundings, and assisted the Wuhan to unfold. The 7 soul rings on his body began to shine with dazzling light. The 3rd soul skill, Broken Dreams, the 7th soul skill, Nightmares, and the 5th soul skill, the Sound of Illusions. In a hurry, Xinian quickly used his 3 soul skills related to illusions. In an instant, the surrounding space was like water waves blowing gently. The next moment, Xinian opened his eyes again, and the bustling crowd, the passing soul masters, the neat and strict patrol of the city guards, the vendors, the cute women, and the childish children all appeared in Xinian's eyes. The original scene that looked like a lonely dead city was swept away, as if it were a dream. Xinian understood that this was Xiandao City, and he was in the middle of the street. Huh? I didn't expect there was a fantasy spirit master here, and he was a master, who could make me fall into it without knowing it. It's so terrifying. Xinian struggled to stand up, panting heavily, his eyes full of fear. The latest novels are published on the 69th book bar. At his level, there are very few things that can scare him. After all, he has lived for so many years. He knows more about the simplest problems of strength and weakness than others. Therefore, he also understands that this must be the work of Tang San's guardian. If he insists on killing Tang San, then what greets him is not such a safe return to reality, but a miserable death, which he cannot bear. Fortunately, I didn't really do it, but I won't dare to do it again. I'm going back now, and I won't interfere with anything about Tang San forever. Xinian slowly put away his frightened look, and bowed humbly in a certain direction. Please let me go. These words were not only said to himself, but also to the unknown guardian hidden in the dark. After saying that, Xinian slowly stood up, looked in a certain direction, and stepped out. Just after Xinian took the first step, a passing soul master in front of him suddenly stopped. The next moment, in front of Xinian, this inexplicable male soul master turned his head, looked at Xinian with a stiff face, and said coldly, "Do you think everything you see is real?" As soon as the voice fell, this ordinary-looking soul master turned his head and continued to follow his own path, passing by Xinian. As if he didn't feel that he had made any strange movements. For no reason, the white-robed old man's face changed again and again. He slowly turned his head and looked around. In an instant, his pupils shrank. All the vendors, children, male and female soul masters, and ordinary civilians on this street slowly turned their heads, staring at him with lifeless eyes and a terrifying look. It's over. The last thought suddenly crossed Xinian's mind. A few days ago, I read a novel written by the Buddha flower boss a few years ago, Liao Zhi-Ngren. I finished reading it. What can I say? I was deeply touched. I didn't want to write novels anymore. I felt that I was really not good at writing. Now I have recovered. I think I should come back and continue writing. After all, you are still waiting. I will make up for the interruption of the past few days as soon as possible and start writing immediately. Chapter 283 The True Face of Soulbone. The next second, a pale hand slapped the shoulder of the old man in white robe. Cold, stiff, and heavy. This was his first feeling. What's going on? My soul bone, my soul skill, why can't I even move? Xinian's face gradually became ferocious, as if he was suffering great torture. A series of cold breaths ran wild in Xinian's body, his meridians were pierced, and his flesh and blood were corroded. But this tormenting pain made Xinian's consciousness more sober, as if he was returning to life. Then, another pale woman's hand pressed on Xinian's face, with such great force that the black nails were directly pinched in. In the end, Xinian's consciousness disappeared, forever, sinking. Although you haven't done the act of blaspheming Xiao Wu in the illusion, keeping you makes me feel sick after all. The real Xinian slowly knelt down in an inconspicuous shadow, his eyes were dull, and the vitality of his body was gradually lost. Uranium covered his head lightly, walked to Xinian step by step, and said coldly. Although, Xinian may not be able to hear it. This old guy, just seeing Tang San walk out of Xiandao City is fake. Finding himself shrouded in an illusion, he hurriedly confessed to Tang San's guardian, which is fake. Using soul power to break through the illusion, thinking that he came to the real Xiandao City, is also fake. Sorry, my spiritual power is higher than yours, so I can do whatever I want. Uranium smiled, gently pressed the palm of his hand on the head of this luxuriously dressed old man, and suddenly exerted force with his 5 fingers. After only a few crisp sounds, no more sound came from the dark alley. Soon, Uranium slowly walked out and casually threw a piece of bone into the Space Soul Guide. It was a piece of bone, about 7 inches long, with a slightly curved front end and a 3-inch bulge like a finger bone. Judging from the position, it was a shrunken left arm bone. And the Space Soul Guide is also Zhu Zhuking's thing, but it was temporarily borrowed by Uranium. Just treat it as a trophy. I'll wash it later. Zhu Zhuking's birthday is coming soon, so I'll give it to her as a gift. Uranium casually decided the future ownership of this soul bone, without any intention of using it himself. Because it is not a radiation soul bone after all. If it is a radiation soul bone, it may also have the function of amplifying the other 2 soul bones. One is a soul bone that controls time. The other is a light blade that can produce unlimited power. If any one of them can be enhanced, it is a way for him to improve his combat power. However, I do have a question. I remember that there are atoms in everything, or everything is made up of atoms. Why can I still move freely and even circulate my soul power after I pause time? I remember that if the atoms stagnate, the heat in the surrounding area will disappear as the atoms stop moving. In other words, after time stops, the surrounding area should fall into absolute zero. The wind caused by my movements, the lifted robes, and the flying dust are all due to the existence of atoms. Could it be that the alien world of Douluo Continent does not conform to this law? But you're right. Discussing the scientific worldview in a fantasy world is itself a ridiculous thing. Let's just give it a try. If it works, it's fine. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter. Frowning, Uranium walked on the street and began to think about the places he had not noticed before. Or is it that time is just defined by humans, and I haven't really stopped time? It's like some Kamen Riders I have seen, such as Kabuto King, God Limit, or Flash, who accelerate themselves to a certain degree, such as 1,000th of a microsecond, then everything they see around them is no different from time stopping, because it's too slow. In the end, Uranium decided to leave this question to experiment at night, and dig deeper into why soul bones confuse and absorb the years, or strength, soul power, etc. of other radiation soul bones, so as to enhance their own years. Are the soul bones produced by radiation soul beasts necessarily interoperable? Also, is time stopping like what he used, completely stagnating time? He had never thought about the meaning of this before, but now that he was free, it was necessary to explore the truth about his special soul bone. Anyway, it didn't matter anyway, it was just a try. After a while, Uranium returned to the Xiandao Royal Academy. He was too lazy to see what happened to Tang San in the end. He didn't care about this matter for the sake of soul bones or to protect Tang San. It was because he had a headache and wanted to find a place to vent his anger. Moreover, the leader of Kanghu Academy named Shinian even showed Xiao Wu in the illusion that she was almost insulted when torturing Tang San. And most importantly, Tang San was able to see through Shinian's illusion because he had eaten Wang Chuan Kaishudu, but he had eaten this fairy grass by the way, but it had not been digested yet. Without Wang Chuan Kaishudu, Tang San naturally had no capital to see through the illusion. Then, in Tang San's illusion, Xiao Wu might have to face the scene he didn't want to see later. And this was also what Uranium didn't want to see. If such a disgusting thing was not directly destroyed humanely, would it be kept for the new year? After a while, Uranium returned to the place where he had lived for several years, and Zhu Ziuqing had already rested there. "How is it? You went out for a walk, are you feeling better?" Hearing the sound of the door opening, Zhu Ziuqing slowly walked out of the room and casually tied her hair. "It's okay, my heart is not so stuffy anymore." Uranium chuckled, sat on the sofa, and stretched lazily. Anyway, getting rid of Shinian still made him a little happy. The latest novel is first published on the 69th book bar. It's just that my mental power is getting stronger and stronger. Now, it seems that the increase in physical strength is not much use to me. Do all the Sharingan clan members have to face this situation? Even if there is no family method of using mental power and pupil power, Uranium is not a fool who stands still. At least in front of the powerful mental power, most enemies are no longer a threat to him. On the contrary, because of this situation, he only needs to move his mind to solve the enemy, so his lightning-fast strength and speed seem to be of little use. Besides, I'm already very strong in terms of mental strength, but what about pupil strength? There's also the main Gekio. Uranium frowned, thinking about the conditions for opening the main Gekio he had seen. Strong mental stimulation. Strong belief. From what Uranium knew, the way Madara and Izuna opened their eyes was unknown. As for Uchiha Itachi, it was due to the death of Uchiha Shisu, who was both his teacher and friend, and entrusted him with the belief of protecting Konoha. The circumstances of Shisu's opening his eyes were unknown. As for Uchiha Obito, he witnessed his best friend Kakashi killing his beloved Nahara-rin with his own eyes. When he entrusted his Sharingan to Kakashi, he also asked Kakashi to protect Nahara-rin, but in the end, what he saw was such a disparate scene, and finally opened the main Gekio. As for Uchiha Sasuke, he killed his brother Uchiha Itachi with his own hands. Under Uchiha Obito's explanation of the facts, he endured the pain and sin of killing his beloved brother, and took the initiative to avenge his brother with his own ideas. But no matter what, he can't escape the above 2 points, stimulation and belief. This stimulation must come from the heart, and it can't be achieved by lying alone, that is, if he wants to open his eyes. After a while, Uranium slowly closed his eyes. "No, there are not many people I care about, I can't lose anyone, and I won't let them. They will encounter accidents, otherwise what do I need this invincible power for? Otherwise, what do I need to open the 2-eye techniques of the main Gekio, Susanoo? Main Gekio, it's better not to have it. With my power that is enough to pacify the world, can't I protect the important people?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 Time, Stop? In the end, Uranium did not continue to think deeply about the main Gekio and the Sharingan. He was already very happy with the 3 Magatama. "Ziuqing, can you do me a favor?" After sitting for a while, Uranium suddenly stood up and asked Zhu Ziuqing. Zhu Ziuqing also stood up in confusion and asked softly, "What's wrong?" Uranium sorted out the thoughts in his mind and continued, "Well, I have an idea. I want to test the limit of my soul bone and soul skills. Let's do this. There is a martial arts field next to the kitchen. Let's go there and try it." The place where they live is an extremely large courtyard. There is a fountain in the center, and the place where they live is right in front. On the left is the kitchen and the martial arts field, and on the right is the garden and the beast martial arts mimicry training area. And at the back is the gate. Although it is not as cheap as Shandao City, it is also one of the most luxurious residences in Shandao Royal Academy. Not ordinary people are not qualified to live there. This also indirectly confirms the importance of uranium and Zhuziuking to Sharingan Royal Academy. Sharingan Royal Academy is not as good as Shrek Academy. It does not have excellent student resources. Before uranium came, the strongest students were only the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family, the direct descendants of the 3 clan masters, and the granddaughter of the title Douluo. However, they are all close to 20 years old. For example, Daimube of Shrek Academy has a soul power of level 37 at the age of 15. Their soul power talents are not worthy of the teacher resources they have. Therefore, after uranium came, the senior leaders of the academy did not hesitate for long and arranged this courtyard for him and Zhuziuking, which was originally a treatment that Yu Shai and Hang did not have. Soon, the two came to the vast and solemn martial arts field, paved with blue bricks under the afterglow of the setting sun. The martial arts field is very large and can allow soul masters to show their skills. Let's start, Zhuking. I want you to use shadow warping. It doesn't matter where you warp. The two stood in the center of the martial arts field, and Uranium casually pointed to a shadowy place and said. As he spoke, Uranium slowly opened the radiation eye martial spirit, staring at Zhuziuking's figure intently, as if he couldn't miss even a second. He had to rely on his high-speed dynamic vision to catch Zhuziuking's shadow that disappeared like a flash of lightning. The speed of the shadow folding was too fast. If he didn't rely on this dynamic vision, he couldn't see what was happening at all. In this case, his judgment ability was very tested, and he had to see everything clearly. Where to fold? Okay, then, I'll start. Zhuziuking looked in the direction pointed by Uranium, then closed his eyes to feel the information from the soul bone, and then nodded affirmatively. The next moment, Zhuziuking's figure suddenly disappeared. Almost at the same time, Zhuziuking slowly squatted in another place, and gently stroked the blue bricks with her bare hands. Hiss, 1 second? Half a second? Or 1/10 of a second? In my vision, it disappeared and appeared almost at the same time. I was distracted just now, try again. It is undeniable that Zhuziuking's speed was too fast. Before he could concentrate, she had already completed the folding. Who can react to this speed? It is no wonder that the players of other college teams in the Soul Master competition would give up in despair after meeting Zhuziuking, and they did not even think of fighting. This speed is too fast. Thinking of when Zhuziuking was in the Soul Master realm and had just obtained this soul bone, he could still capture the details and sense the location where she would descend in advance, but now that Zhuziuking has entered the Soul Sect, he has given Uranium the ability to deal with it with all his strength. It seems that with the increase of soul power, the speed of the folding will also increase accordingly. Uranium thought to himself. One more time? Zhuziuking tilted her head, and then her eyes condensed slightly, looking at the shadow corner beside Uranium. This time, I want to seize this opportunity. The faster she is, the more obvious the effect will be for me. I want to see if time really stops. Seeing Zhuziuking's body shaking slightly, Uranium quickly became alert. Under the 3 slowly rotating fan-shaped icons, invisible power gathered in Uranium's eyes. It seems that everything slowed down. High-speed dynamic vision. Everything is so long. Suddenly, Zhuziuking moved. The first thing that lit up was her bright eyes, which were like the starry sky in the wilderness, blooming with endless brilliance. Then, there was a heart-pounding sense of oppression. Under Uranium's gaze, Zhuziuking's figure suddenly became virtual. As long as a certain amount of time passes, she can completely become virtual, and then, in another shadow corner, her virtual body will also be staring. In other words, once Zhuziuking starts to fold, she will be invincible. She is already in the shadow world and the power of the Naruto, which is a tricky soul skill that is no less than hers. Now, at this moment, Uranium's eyes suddenly became sharp. The invisible force twisted this space. Soul Bone World. In this period of time that was about to be completed, Uranium activated his Soul Bone soul skill, Time Stop. In an instant, the afterglow of the setting sun also froze. Zhuziuking's illusory figure seemed to have stagnated, without a trace of momentum to continue folding. The latest novel is published on 69 Shuba. The fallen leaves blown by the wind seemed to be imprisoned in the air, unable to move. Even the hair that was blown by the wind seemed to have stopped flying. Only as I slowly approached Zhuziuking, this special weird feeling of extreme movement and stillness was barely broken. A second passed, and I walked in front of Zhuziuking. Haha, I didn't expect that you closed your eyes when you folded. You are so beautiful now. In front of me was Zhu Zhuking's beautiful sight like a sleeping beauty. 2 seconds passed, and I couldn't help but want to touch her face. But suddenly I pounced on nothing, and my fingers went straight through, touching nothing. It seems that the virtualization has begun. What I see now is just a projection of the real world. This kind of invincibility is really amazing. I envy it. If I had this soul-bone ability, wouldn't I still be killing people in Douluo Continent? 3 seconds passed, and Uranium sighed softly, saying sourly. 4 seconds passed, and Uranium's eyes continued to stare at Zhu Zhuking's figure with a serious expression, but in his heart, there was a hint of mixed emotions that he didn't know whether it was loss or joy. 5 seconds passed, and Uranium breathed a sigh of relief and put down his heart to study. But suddenly, Uranium turned back suddenly, staring at the direction of Zhu Zhuking with wide eyes. This was the last second that time stopped, and the space had not yet twisted back. But in front of him, Zhu Zhuking disappeared. Without hesitation, Uranium turned his eyes and looked in the direction of Zhu Zhuking's jump. I saw a hazy, unformed shadow, which seemed to have been engraved in the space. Although Zhu Zhuking had not yet completed the jump, the graceful curve confirmed Uranium's guess. Time is really just a noun created by humans to define themselves. At the last moment, the effect of time stop ended, the space was restored, and everything returned to calm with the sound of distorted mirrors breaking. Zhu Zhuking landed lightly on the ground with a calm face. She did not feel anything strange because Uranium used the soul bone skill. She didn't even know that Uranium had spent a full 5 seconds in the cracks of time. How is it, Uranium, did it succeed? Suddenly, Zhu Zhuking turned her head and looked at Uranium with an excited face. Although her tone was doubtful, it was certain. Retracting her thoughts, Uranium slowly exhaled a breath of turbid air, raised her head, and smiled at Zhu Zhuking. The warm smile seemed to touch the girl's heartstrings. The next moment, Zhu Zhuking also smiled. Let's stabilize the update first. The 2 chapters are a total of 5K, not just over 2,000. Chapter 285, the last day of the qualifiers. Soon, the preliminaries came to an end. Uranium did not participate in the following games. After the match against the Thunder Academy team, no team dared to face the Royal Dou Team II. But what's interesting is that the Sharingan Royal Academy has never had a head-on collision with Shrek Academy. Even the Shenfeng Academy team and Xianshu Academy team of the 5 elemental academies have not been encountered by Uranium, which also put an end to his idea of appearing on the stage. It's boring to play against weak teams, and you can't play against strong ones. Among the recent 20 games, the Xiangjia Academy team and the Kanghu Academy are already high-level duels for the Royal Dou Team II, but they are still not the opponents of the Royal Dou Team II. Especially Zhu Zhuking, with a mysterious and unpredictable method, single-handedly defeated all the students. Even if the other academy teams were well prepared, either back-to-back or looking at each other's shadows, and breaking Zhu Zhuking's instant movement through mutual help, it was of no use. The reason is that after defeating the Thunder Academy team, Shi Lingling, a female soul master in the Royal Dou Team II, reached level 30. The Sharingan Royal Academy sent her to the Soul Beast Forest overnight to absorb a 1,000-year-old willow, a plant-type soul beast, and awakened the 1,000-year soul skill, Hardwood Armor. This is an auxiliary soul skill with amazing defense, but it is quite heavy. The more soul power is input, the harder it becomes. On the contrary, if the soul power is less, it will become tougher. It can be said that no matter what, it is a very practical soul skill. Originally, this was a soul skill that was not suitable for Zhu Zhuking, but Uranium suddenly discovered that once this soul skill stopped supplying soul power, the hardwood armor would turn into a pool of fine wood powder and would not disappear. This provided Uranium with inspiration, an inspiration for making dust and haze on the spot. If the flame encounters wood powder, paper powder, cotton, tobacco, etc., it will produce explosive volatilization. Because in the Soul Master competition, all items are not allowed to be used, not only soul guides, but also ordinary items. However, Zhu Zhuking's soul bone effect is in the Shadow Underground, which can be regarded as top combat power. Otherwise, relying on the soul power of level 44 alone is nothing in the Soul Master competition, where there are many Soul Masters. Therefore, the temperature generated by the burning power of Yadair's third soul skill and Shi Lingling's third soul skill that turns into wood powder can produce a special combination. A combination that can be called a small explosion was born between the two girls. But what uranium pays more attention to is not its explosive power, but the smoke it produces. Although the time is very short, it can only last for half a minute to 1 minute, but for Zhu Zhuking, this time is enough. Therefore, this is the overwhelming advantage that Zhu Zhuking had before. However, the disadvantage of this tactic is also obvious: it is afraid of wind. Especially the Kamikaze Academy team. If they encounter this team, Zhu Zhuking's short-term smoke coverage will become a joke. She will be blown away in a minute. Moreover, the 7 of them are flying spirit masters who can fly in the sky. Although there are still shadows on the ground, they cannot threaten the sky. It can be said that they perfectly restrain Zhu Zhuking. Because there is no shadow in the sky for Zhu Zhuking to borrow strength, if they encounter the Kamikaze Academy team, uranium may have to appear in advance, otherwise it will not be able to fight at all. Feng Xiaoshan and his team only need to continuously release consuming spirit skills in the sky to grind Zhu Zhuking on the ground until her spirit power disappears. Even an ordinary bird spirit master, facing a sensitive attack spirit master like Zhu Zhuking who cannot fight against the air, has a certain probability of winning. It is nothing more than using his own spirit skills to consume Zhu Zhuking remotely, and then Zhu Zhuking dodges with his own speed, and repeats this until one of the two sides runs out of spirit power. Therefore, flying spirit masters with lower spirit power levels than Zhu Zhuking can only guarantee undefeated in battle with her, but cannot guarantee a sure win. Otherwise, with Zhu Zhuking's spirit power of level 45, how can she lose to level 30 spirit master? However, this is a normal situation. In a one-on-one situation, there is no doubt about this. However, this is the spirit master competition. As the vice captain, she has such a weakness of no anti-aircraft means, which is simply a nightmare. The same situation is also in Xianshu College. Shui Binger's Ice Phoenix Spirit is also Zhu Zhuking's nemesis. There is no way how to fight against an opponent you can touch. Flying Spirit Masters are enemies that are difficult for you to deal with. In the future, I will find a way to get you a Flying Spirit Ring or Spirit Bone, otherwise you will have no ability to resist against opponents like Shui Binger. Uranium pointed to the slowly ending game with a sigh. The current game is the Shrek team against the Xianshu College team. This is the last battle of the preliminaries, so Uranium will use Shui Binger's Ice Phoenix Spirit as an example. Indeed, she can freeze the field, which greatly limits the pace of ordinary Soul Masters, while the Soul Masters of Xianshu College can walk freely on the ice. Even if I can dodge by hiding in the shadows, my soul power will sooner or later not be able to hold on. Zhu Zhuking also nodded in agreement. Although she is the vice captain of the Royal Fighting Team II, it is obvious that she is not invincible. It's just that she hasn't met an opponent who can make her step down from the altar. The Shenfang College team and the Xianshu College team are all powerful teams with high soul power levels, standard soul ring configurations, and special trump cards. Although Zhu Zhuking is strong, she is not as strong as Uranium after all, or in other words, she is just infinitely close to Uranium in some aspects, but in terms of weaknesses, she has some serious defects. For example, Uranium is a pentagonal warrior with fast speed, great strength, fierce special skills, high physical resistance, high special resistance, except that his lifespan limits him from flying up to the sky and standing shoulder to shoulder with the sun. The rest has surpassed the concept of Soul Masters. If he encounters a flying object that is fast and high, he will cut it with a sword. If he encounters a restricted area, with ice and snow withering, freezing everything and blocking his vision, he will turn on the time stop and cut it with a sword. If he encounters a defensive object like the elephant armor sect, it is completely a sandbag. He can hit it however he wants and kick it down one by one. Zhu Zhuking is still a little bit behind in this aspect, but in terms of attack power and speed, if she wants to compete with Uranium, even if she is as strong as Uranium, it will be a headache for a long time. As for the shameless time stop, the timing must be accurate, not a single bit can be wrong, because once Zhu Zhuking uses the soul bone, she will escape into the shadow, and then she will warp back to reality. During this period, she is completely invincible. In other words, if the timing is not caught, it is useless to turn on the time stop and you can't hit it at all. This is the strong side of Zhu Zhuking. After the preliminaries, the 5 qualified teams will be awarded and issued with qualification certificates for the promotion match in front of Emperor Zhu Yi. Soon, the 5 teams that appeared, led by their captains, walked onto the VIP seats. As the captain of the Royal Dou Team II, Uranium naturally went there, and he could not be absent, nor could he be replaced. Although he did not play a single game in the preliminaries, and the opponents he met were not particularly strong, this did not hinder his position in the hearts of the audience at all, which was raised through Zhu's Huking. Everyone was thinking, Zhu's Huking is so strong, then how strong is he as the captain? Since Shandao Royal Academy's record is 27 wins and 0 losses, it ranks first. Shenfeng Academy's record is 26 wins and 1 loss, Shenfeng Academy ranks second. Shrek Academy ranks third with 24 wins, 1 draw and 2 losses. Blazing Academy ranks fourth with half a win more than Xianshu Academy, and Xianshu Academy is still fifth. Thunder Academy also had a chance to qualify, but was very unlucky. In the 25th game and the 7th game, they met Shandao Royal Academy. They even met Shenfeng Academy and Xianshu Academy once, but they lost. They didn't even rank in the top 5 in terms of wins. In previous years, the 5 elemental academies were able to get 5 qualifying places in the Shandao City Division, or these 5 places were already in their pockets, but in this session, 2 dark horses emerged one after another. One is Shrek Academy, and the other is the surprising Shandao Royal Academy Team 2. You know, Royal Dou Team 1 is related to the dignity of the Shandao royal family, so it is sure to get a place in the finals, but now, Royal Dou Team 2, which seems to be inferior to Team 1, can get 5 qualifying places, and it is a perfect record. Is this still the Shandao Royal Academy with only noble waste? So as Uranium slowly walked onto the rostrum, he immediately felt several gazes mixed with curiosity and fighting spirit. Among them, the strongest one was Daimube from Shrek Academy. There is no doubt that for all the academy teams that want to win the championship, Royal Dou Team 2 is an extremely difficult team, and for Daimube, Uranium is even more significant. This is an opponent that he is extremely eager to defeat, no matter it is because he took Zhu's Huking away, or because he invited him to fight after the battle in Soto City. This is also the ultimate goal of his hard training in the past 2 years, to defeat him, to defeat Uranium. It is precisely because he understands how big the gap between himself and Uranium is that his determination becomes heavier. He is convinced, but it is also because he has thought about his own weakness that he can understand what qualifications he can bring to face this powerful opponent. Although he has not really completed the awakening state of the former Saint King, whether it is the domain, the change of appearance, or the evolution of the martial soul, he has not achieved it, but the increased soul power has already made him comparable to the Soul King. If this kind of bloodline regression is really that easy to deal with, then Tang San would not need the sacrifice of the Blue Silver King. This is the reason why Daimube has not become the first combat force of the Shrek team so far. The strongest single soldier of Shrek is the Moon Silver Blade martial soul, Diana. The quality of her martial soul is even higher than the 7 killing swords of Sword Douluo Chenzin. Among the weapon spirits, only Kaing's darkened scythe can stand shoulder to shoulder with it. No matter what other dragon pattern staff, snake staff, or even clear sky hammer, they are not as good as these 2 spirits with special backgrounds. But unfortunately, Lost is a spirit that likes to stir up trouble. When he saw the radiated titan giant ape in the forest, he said that this world was too dangerous. He decisively locked himself up and also banned Kaing for 6 years. As a result, Diana is already over level 40, and Kaing is only level 33. If the levels of both sides are the same, Kaing can still fight with Diana, and the victory and defeat are about 50-50, but now, he is no longer qualified. Next, Your Majesty, the 7 treasures glazed tile sect Master Ning, and the Platinum Bishop of Cirrus will personally issue the qualification certificates and prize money for the 5 teams that enter the promotion match. The qualification certificate is actually a letter, which is not afraid of being forged. After all, the Spirit Hall and the Heaven Dao Empire know which academy has advanced, and the prize money is something that Uranium has already known. The top 5 academies will receive the same prize money. After all, this is just a preliminaries. Each team received a reward of 10,000 gold soul coins issued by the Heaven Dao Empire, and in the finals, the top 3 prizes will be provided by the Spirit Hall. After the awards were issued, the host award was handed over to the most honorable Emperor Zhu Yi. Emperor Zhu Yi's eyes swept over the student representatives of the 5 academies in front of him, and stayed on Yu for a few seconds, then smiled and said, "First of all, children, I want to congratulate you. You have successfully obtained the qualification to advance to this session of the All-Continent Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite Competition. As the supreme ruler of the Dou Empire, I am proud of you. You are all the hope of the future of the Empire, and as the captains and vice-captains of each team, your strength has also played the most important role in the competition, so I decided to confer the title of Viscount on 10 of you. The title of Baron of the other participating students from your 5 academies. After you graduate, the door of the Imperial family will be open to you at any time, and your fiefdom will be uniformly distributed after you graduate. There was no precedent for rewarding titles in previous competitions, but this time, Emperor Zui additionally conferred the captains and vice-captains of each team as viscounts, and the other team members as barons. Obviously, he wanted to win over the 5 academies for the Imperial family. This made Bishop Saris somewhat dissatisfied. Whether it is the Dou Empire or the Xingluo Empire, the titles are ranked according to their high and low levels: Duke, Marquess, Earl, Viscount, and Baron. 10 Viscount noble titles were given out just for the qualification to advance to the preliminary round. The generosity of the Snowy Knight Emperor was enough to surprise anyone around him. However, as the Emperor of a country, the Snowy Knight Emperor naturally shut up Bishop Saris with just a few words. These 5 academies are all children of my Dou Empire, and the titles are just extra rewards I give them, and have nothing to do with the Spirit Hall. If Bishop Saris feels that it is inappropriate, you can also authorize them to be deacons of the Spirit Hall. The latest novels are first published on the 6th-9th book bar. Bishop Saris's face was somewhat gloomy. Although any position in the Spirit Hall had to be reported to the main hall, the higher the position, the more so. Ordinary people could not make their own appointments, but as a Platinum Bishop, especially for the members of the Spirit Master competition held every 5 years, he naturally had the right to make decisions first and report later. After all, the elders above him, His Holiness the Pope, would surely allow him to win over geniuses. However, even if he wanted to win them over, would the old guys behind the other sects agree? These geniuses are not short of money. They are the offspring of some important figures and have been trained with a lot of money. Can the Spirit Hall just rely on a deacon to deal with them? But he didn't dare to say anything about more important positions, because it was no longer something he could grant. Even if he could grant it, they might not agree to accept it. If he was slapped in the face, he would be embarrassed and held accountable by His Holiness the Pope. After all, Emperor Zui was the emperor of a country and was qualified to grant titles. The emperor could do whatever he wanted, because the whole country belonged to him anyway. I will also make you a promise here. If any of your teams can win the final game, the team's rank will be promoted by 1 level, the captain will be promoted by 2 levels, and the college will be prefixed with the word royal and receive financial support from the empire. In other words, once the team from the Dou Empire wins the final victory, the captain will be treated as a Marquess and the rest of the team members will be treated as Viscounts. As the Emperor Zui who is most optimistic about the Dou Royal College, these rewards are almost directly arranged for the Royal Dou team too. Although the Shrek team is also very powerful, the Xianshu College team, the Shenfeng College team, and even the Wuhan College team trained by the Wuhan Hall are not bad, and can even be said to be completely superior to the teams in the previous Soul Master competitions. But what really made Emperor Zui determined was a sentence revealed to him by Zhu King. Uranium, you can become a Soul Emperor at any time. In this Soul Master competition where the Soul Ancestor is the strongest and the Soul Lord is everywhere, suddenly a Soul King descends here, and it is a top Soul King of level 59. In this situation, even Emperor Zui, who has a low soul power level, can understand how shocking it will be. Therefore, in order to prevent uranium from being lured away by the Spirit Hall, Emperor Zui also spent a lot of money. A powerful imperial Marquess, with fiefdoms and financial support, can be said to be able to rely on the country for support from now on. Although it is not second to none, at least, it has become a family foundation in the top 10 of the Dou Empire. After hearing Emperor Zui's promise, Platinum Bishop Salis was also stunned. It seems that he didn't hear clearly what Emperor Zui said. But then, after figuring out the key, his face suddenly became extremely ugly. As the captain and vice-captain of each team, although these young people can be regarded as having seen the world, they are still a little confused by the long list of rewards from Emperor Zui. What does the title represent? Viscount can already have his own territory and attendance, and will also receive a certain amount of subsidies from the country. This money alone is enough to live. Although many Soul Masters have titles, It is easy to obtain titles of kingdoms and duchies, but it is not so easy to obtain titles of empires, especially the directly granted Viscount title. The territory owned by a Viscount can already be a small city. What is more valuable is that Emperor Zuyi has promised the 10 people in front of him that after this competition, he will grant them fiefdoms. This shows that they are not just empty titles, but nobles who truly own territories. Saras's face looked very ugly. He didn't say anything more, but there was a bit more gloom in his eyes. The captains and vice-captains of the 5 teams who passed the preliminaries were all elites among the young soul masters, and they were smarter than each other. From the promise of Emperor Zuyi and Saras's obstruction, they could vaguely feel some gunpowder. Ningfengzi just stood aside and smiled without saying a word, as if all this had nothing to do with him. Emperor Zuyi looked around at the 5 teams and said with a smile, "The promotion match will not be held in the Daohan Arena of Xiandao City, but in the Royal Paddock, that is, the military camp. At that time, in addition to your 5 teams, there will be 10 teams from other regions of the Xiandao Empire and the 5 kingdoms. The promotion match is the best place to show your personal strength. I believe you have already known the rules. I hope you will play well at that time. In addition, in the promotion match, the 3 students with the most wins will be provided with the soul rings needed for the next realm promotion by the imperial family. You can choose any soul beast under 30,000 years old." This promise and reward were added by the imperial family. It must be said that it was very sincere. For most soul sect students, the next time will be level 50. At level 50, they can absorb 10,000 year soul rings, which is extremely important for every soul master. Moreover, this is a soul beast that can be selected by themselves, which can completely achieve the best match and the best soul skills. The captains and vice-captains of the 5 teams were a little excited after hearing the words of Emperor Zuyi. Emperor Zuyi glanced at the captains and vice-captains of the 5 teams, looked at the hate in their eyes and nodded slightly. Only seeing the calm eyes of Uranium, he paused for a moment, but did not say much. The promotion game will be held in a month, and they have a month to make corrections or breakthroughs. Often after a war, it is the best time to break through the level. Seeing the burning heat gradually rising in the eyes of the 10 elites in front of him, Emperor Zuyi smiled slightly. The promotion competition will be held in a month. I hope you can make another breakthrough within this month. Well, I won't say much else. You kids are all very smart. I think you will make a smart choice." After saying this, Emperor Zuyi's eyes shifted and swept across the face of Platinum Bishop Sarath, and then turned and left accompanied by a group of high-ranking officials of the Empire. After the award ceremony, the 5 teams left one by one. Sarath's eyes moved slightly, but his expression had completely calmed down. It was difficult to tell anything from his expression. Just as Emperor Zuyi said, although he did not say it explicitly, the captains and vice-captains of the teams of each academy understood what he meant. The Empire and the Spirit Hall, choose one of the 2. Actually, there is nothing to worry about. With the potential I have shown now and such a good relationship with Zuking, Emperor Zuyi is even willing to spend a greater price to tie me up, because he knows that when I reach that level, all external things will no longer be important. Uranium and Zhu Zhuking left the Xiandao Great Soul Arena side by side, while slowly explaining to Zhu Zhuking. She is still immersed in the generous reward of Emperor Zuyi and cannot extricate herself. As for the level, he said, it is naturally the title Douluo level. But, this already represents that you have a bright future, Uranium. Think about it, a city's fiefdom, servants, mansions, and rewards. Although I don't know whether this title can be inherited, no matter what, you already have the foundation to become an old noble, and I remember that you are a commoner. From a commoner to top noble, my god, this is simply too happy. As she thought, Zhu Zhuking's eyes became brighter and brighter. Uranium's happiness is her happiness. She congratulated Uranium from the bottom of her heart. Actually, this is just a sugar-coated bullet, but for me, I will take the sugar-coating and the bullet. Uranium chose to accept the reward from Emperor Zuyi and the challenge hidden in it. So what if Shrek's Tang Sen, Daimyu Bei, and Diana are very strong? So what if they have the 7-in-1 fusion technique? So what if the Spirit Hall has 3 Soul Kings? He will definitely win the championship of the Soul Master competition. Thinking that there is still 1 year left before Xiaoxu should complete his transformation, the corners of Uranium's mouth can't help but rise slightly. Originally, this chapter could be divided into 3 chapters, but I'm too lazy to divide it. I didn't update yesterday, so I'll write more today as compensation. Chapter 286, Organizational Preparation. Uranium and Zhu Zhuking stood outside the Great Soul Fighting Arena, looking at the sunny sky. The last day's game was played very quickly and ended at noon. At this time, the sun was shining brightly, but the sunlight falling on his body did not seem scorching, but was as warm and comfortable as a hot spring. But Uranium did not feel this warmth, but instead felt a heavy pressure gradually solidifying. To be honest, he was very surprised by the words of Emperor Zhu Yi. If he took on the identity of the Marquis of the Heaven Dao Empire, it also meant that he was connected to a certain city fiefdom. Even more seriously, everything about him might be tied to deeper meaning. At the same time, Uranium could not help but sigh that he had lived in the forest for too long, and he had even forgotten that the Douluo Continent was not only the world of soul masters, but also the world of civilians. It is a Western fantasy worldview, with many principalities and kingdoms, as well as many cities and towns. If he really had this noble status, the subsequent governance, interests, intrigues, and many other things would take the initiative to find him. However, if I have a formal identity, I will have a base. With my strength, no one will secretly undermine my position. It can even be said that I am the master of this place. After all, with my support, Zhu King will not rashly launch a coup. He must wait until I reach a certain level and have strong power. After everything is worry-free, he will take the initiative to attack. For example, it is possible to wait for Emperor Zhu to die of old age, but no matter what, I can afford to wait for a few years. So, before I fell out with Jinring Su, the noble status of this imperial Marquis was a great help to me. With this base, I can cultivate my power openly. Otherwise, as a commoner now, although I have the noble title bestowed by Emperor Zhu, it is only to facilitate my admission to Shandao Royal Academy. In fact, it is useless. In the future, the Dongfang organization will also need to eat and drink, and it will also need circulating funds. Even the rewards for the members of the organization, the bribery of underground informants, and weapons and equipment all need me to worry about personally, relying on my identity as God King Kronos. After all, Kaing is too weak now, and he can't suppress those soul kings, soul emperors, and soul saints, but with such a high status, it is not reasonable for me to take the initiative to take on these chores. Alice, in the end, I still need a high-level soul master who can fight to do things for me. When he thought about how much effort he had to put into setting up an organization, Uranium couldn't help but feel a headache. He couldn't even manage the study group when he was in school. How could he manage so many soul masters? Could it be that he had to ask Zhu King for help? But without these members, without a power that belongs to me, I, a high-level soul master, can't do what I want to do. Wait, is it feasible to use the identity of the Imperial Marquis Uranium? It seems to be a feasible way. To the outside world, Uranium is the Imperial Marquis, and to the Dongfang organization, Uranium is the heir of a senior staff member, responsible for everything in the Shandao Empire. Suddenly, Uranium thought of a bold idea. At the same time, it is also a fraudulent method that seems to be not a big problem. It would be great if there was a person of high status to control the distribution of the Shandao Empire for him, but he was alone and did not have the courage to convince others, let alone let the high-level spirit masters submit to him. But why is this so-called person of high status not himself? While thinking, Uranium raised his head, glanced at Zhu Zhuking who was calm, and coughed and said, "Zhuking, I plan to let those spirit masters sleep for another half a year. I will adjust the time flow rate between the illusion and reality, so that I don't have to worry so much. There is no way. They can all wake up now, but after they come out, they will always find a place to settle down, and then start to be distributed to the cities belonging to the Shandao Empire, recruit talents for him, take root in the grassroots for him, do more good things, and spread the reputation of the organization to prepare for the future." That's why he was surprised by the reward from Emperor Zhu Yi. It was like a pillow was delivered when he was sleepy. Although this is a necessary means of winning over those in power, he likes this kind of thing very much. He even thought about whether he could save the old man's life after Zhu King came to power. "You still want to take half a year?" Zhu Zhuking's expression suddenly became a little strange, and she couldn't help but continue to ask, "Have you forgotten that when the finals come, we will go to the node between the Shandao Empire and the Xingluo Empire, to play in Wuhan City? It's a whole month's journey from here to Wuhan City. Your mental power can't cover such a long distance. When you go to play the game, Those soul masters will wake up directly. She knew some of Uranium's actions. As his supporter, Zhu Huking also helped in some places. So, she also understood some of Uranium's ideas. Wait, you don't want to take it with you, or do you want to send a few carriages to follow after the Wuhan Hall's convoy sets off? I feel like you must have thought about this just now. The two of them had a tacit understanding, and Zhu Huking vaguely felt some of Uranium's thoughts. This was a very special premonition. As long as Uranium thought of something related to the two of them, she would vaguely feel it. That's right. After seeing that Zhu Huking had said everything he wanted to say, Uranium could only nod stiffly and admit it. Indeed, for now, it seems that there are only a few ways. After all, he can't give up these subordinates who are almost brainwashed. If he waits for another half a year, he will be more fully prepared. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. You know, I have been preparing for a long time. After saying that, Uranium tilted his head slightly and glanced at the direction of the house not far away. There were more than 20 neatly arranged bodies lying quietly inside, and there were also a few ordinary people who were controlled by the mind, responsible for the food, drink, defecation and urination of these soul masters. They were not even soul masters, so they naturally couldn't resist Uranium's mental strength and were easily used by him. This is what Xiaoxu had done before. After controlling a three-ringed war soul master with his mind, he left a big flower state and rode on someone else's body, chasing all the way, and finally successfully caught up with Uranium in the Sunset Forest. It's too troublesome. Who knows what we will encounter on the road? Zhu Huking shook his head slightly at Uranium's risky idea and asked, what if there is an emergency? How can you protect the lives of your men with just a few ordinary people who are not even soul masters? After Zhu Huking finished speaking, Uranium was also stunned. Yes, it is not safe to follow the convoy. At that time, there will be a situation where the Wuhan Hall will gang up on the convoy. What if those Wuhan Hall soul masters directly kill all the unconscious soul masters he arranged behind to ensure that no one survives? For a time, Uranium fell into silence. Chapter 287, Changes in Soul Bone Rewards. If you ask me, you should just knock them all out. Why bother with them? Not only will it affect your performance in the game, but it will also make you have more weaknesses. It's a thankless task. Zhu Huking continued to analyze for Uranium. But if they are knocked out, they will be almost ruined after half a year if they only rely on others to take care of them. Although they are soul masters, if they don't exercise at this level, it will take a long time for them to recover. Uranium frowned and said what he thought. So what? Just say it's the price of resurrection. For example, your body has been dead for a while, but because of your good performance, God King Kronos reversed life and death and brought you back to life. However, this kind of resurrection has limitations and is not perfect. If you want to return to your previous state, you need to recover quietly. Then, through various means, give them a deeper explanation, or create a new identity so that they can better adapt to the next task. There is no need to be so polite to those who once wanted to kill us and seize our soul bones, Uranium. Zhu Huking's thoughts did not stop there. She was very smart and grew up in the Zhu family since she was a child. Under the influence of her surroundings, she also understood a very simple truth. That is, there is no need to treat servants too well. If it were Uranium's previous life, there would be a very classic saying. A little bit of kindness, a big bit of hatred. Is that so? Uranium also understood Zhu Huking's thoughts a little. It seems that I am not as proficient as you in this regard, Zhu Huking. After figuring out the key, Uranium put her arm around Zhu Huking's shoulders and smiled. He only knows some things from his past life. How can he know the real art of controlling people? He didn't even really understand the so-called dragon slaying art, let alone the Emperor's mind and the art of controlling people. That's for sure. The Zhu family has always been the marriage partner of the Xingluo Empire's royal family, and my sister and I are the candidates for queen. If I didn't understand some things, I would have been eliminated by my sister a long time ago. The reason I came out is not only to find Daimyo Bei, but more importantly, I can't stay in the Zhu family anymore. If I don't come out, I will definitely die one day. When talking about the aspects that she is good at, Zhu Huking's lips slightly raised. Even in her tone, Daimyo Bei and the like have nothing to do with her, and she can't be shocked at all. It seems that I still need you to help me look after it from time to time, otherwise I will make mistakes easily. Uranium said with a smile. Originally, he didn't want Zhu's Huking to get involved to avoid trouble. But now, he can't support an organization in another world with just some meager ideas in his mind. After all, he has no place to learn, and he is not born with the ability, so in this case, using capable people is a clear recognition of oneself. Knowing how to use people is also a skill, and the most feared thing is to pretend to know without knowing, and do it anyway. Okay, but how about the remuneration? Let me make it clear first, the price of hiring me is not low. Zhu's Huking also smiled, and her beautiful eyes narrowed with a smile, looking at Uranium with a smile. After seeing Zhu's Huking's long-lost cold smile, Uranium gently embraced her slender waist and whispered in her ear, "What remuneration do you want? The money earned by the entire organization is yours." While speaking, Uranium took out Zhu's Huking's Space Soul Guide from his pocket with his other empty hand, fished out a belt and a white and green Soul Guide driver from it, put them into his clothes, and then put the Space Soul Guide in Zhu's Huking's hand. "I'll return it to you. The gold soul coins I earned recently are all in it, and there are some things that may be valuable," Uranium also added. However, Zhu's Huking shook her head and declined, holding the not-so-big white hand of you. "No need, I don't have anything I need to bring with me, and it's troublesome if you don't have gold soul coins on you. Just think of it as a long-term loan to you." "Silly girl, do you think I will have any trouble with this thing?" Yu gently took off the token given by Zhuking from his waist, held it in the air, and shook it gently. Suddenly, the words on the golden token fell into Zhu's Huking's eyes. "The prince is here in person." 4 big golden words. Seeing this token is like seeing the Prince Zhu King in person. I go out to find a place to eat, and I don't even have to pay for the gold soul coins. I just need to show it to the boss, and those bosses will even rush to give me things for free. Even if I encounter any garbage and trouble, I can give a sound to the city guards, and there will be many people in Dou City who want to help me solve it. His Highness Zhu King's face is very big. As you said this, he put the token back on his waist and tied it up, looking very cherished. At that time, I didn't know what it was, and I even thought it was tricky. But now, Uranium is enjoying eating free food with this token, because he no longer has any psychological burden. Another thing that must be mentioned is that the food in the Douluo world, although the variety is much less than that in his previous life, is even more delicious than that in his previous life. Some of the things taken from soul beasts, even if there are not many seasoning items, can make delicious dishes that make people swallow their tongues. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. What's more, there are soul nourishment, which is much more nutritious than those barbecues on the street. In the previous life, these soul beast meats were really long-lived meals. Of course, this is just an exaggeration. Uranium doesn't know how many minutes eating these soul beast meats can extend life, but no matter what, there are benefits, and they are delicious. Okay, then I won't refuse. Seeing that you had his own way, Zhu's Huking could only nod slightly, took the Space Soul Guide back, and tidied Yu's hair. "Well, I'll stop these illusions first. It's been almost a month. Let them sleep for a while. After the Soul Master competition is over and my fiefdom is done, I'll let them wake up," Yu said softly. "Then let's go back first. You didn't play in this competition. I was fighting a group of Soul Masters all the time. Alice Kang only fought against level 30 Soul Masters. I was the one who played against Soul Masters. I feel that I'm about to break through, but it's not a loss." While speaking, Zhu's Huking stretched lazily. "Are you going to increase your soul power level soon? I remember that you are now level 45. If you can break through in this month, you will reach level 46. There will be a breakthrough after the war. Maybe after the promotion game, you can reach level 47, which is already a very high soul power level in the Soul Master competition." Yu analyzed calmly. As for why he didn't say it was the top level of soul power, isn't it because the Spirit Hall's Golden Generation has 3 Soul Kings, plus he is a Soul King of level 59. However, because of my existence, I'm afraid the Spirit Hall will not specifically use soul bones as rewards for the Soul Master competition. After all, in the original situation, these 3 soul bones were given to the members of the Golden Generation by the Spirit Hall Pope Ibidong, but after being refuted by the Elder Hall, they chose to give them through the Soul Master competition. Now, I'm afraid Bibidong naturally doesn't have this idea, maybe just give a random garbage soul bone to get rid of it. But even if it's a garbage soul bone, it's still a soul bone. The value is self-evident, and it's also a reward worthy of the champion of the Soul Master competition. I read it wrong before. Zhu's Huking was level 45. I wrote it as level 44 in the last chapter. I have changed it back. Chapter 288 Uranium Decision. Soon, Uranium and Zhu's Huking returned to the Shandao Royal Academy. The other team members had been waiting in the number 2 training ground. Seeing the captain and vice captain coming back, Kaiying immediately stepped forward and led Shi Lingling, Mikong, Yadir and others to come forward. Captain, there is a month left, so how about we do special training? As he spoke, Kaiying looked at Uranium's face with expectation. The recent competitions were really boring. He had no chance to play at all, or he would be beaten if he played. But now it's the promotion match, one-on-one. He is invincible within level 30, so he should be able to fight now, right? Lost just told him that after the many fights in this competition, it has awakened some of its abilities, and it can become stronger as long as it fights. If he fights with melee power type soul masters, strong attack type soul masters, agile attack type soul masters, and defense type soul masters, he can get physical enhancement, but this is a long-term project, and the enhancement of the increase will only be effective if it accumulates more. If he fights with long-range attacking spirit masters, control spirit masters, auxiliary spirit masters, and food spirit masters, he can get a slight increase in spirit power. As above, there is no effect in a short time. But if it is a frequent fight, it will be different. Oh? After the preliminaries, you are itching again. Yadir said with a smile. That's right. After the vice captain came on the court, I basically sat on the bench. It's pitiful. Now I have to rely on the promotion match. Kaiying smiled and said excitedly. Uranium found a chair and sat down casually, saying easily, don't worry, this time you will have enough to fight. The promotion match is about the qualification to go to the finals. Moreover, it is a one-on-one battle, without any team cooperation or tactical matching. What matters is the combat ability of a single soldier. And this happens to be the core of the second team of the Royal Fighting Team. Whether it is Uranium, Kaiying, or Zhu's Huking, they are all extremely powerful in single combat, but Kaiying's combat level is in the 30th level range. Zhu's Huking is at level 40. As for the other auxiliary spirit masters, they are just for show. In the original team battle, they used the single-person charge method, and in the one-on-one duel of the promotion match, they are like fish in water. However, this kind of round-robin duel is a very big consumption for a spirit master. Looking at the excited team members around him, Uranium said slowly, I will personally participate in this promotion match. Kaiying's face suddenly stiffened a little, and then he looked at you in disbelief, exclaiming, Captain, is there any opponent in this promotion match that you can personally fight? I saw that the deputy captains of the Shrek Academy team and the Shianshu Academy team can easily beat them. Isn't she invincible in one-on-one battles? But as the voice fell, Kaiying immediately thought of something. Oh, right, this round-robin match. Well, that's what you think. Her fourth soul skill consumes a lot of energy. Although she can achieve a one-sided slaughter when facing soul masters of the same level, her soul power will always be exhausted. So I said that if I encounter a difficult team, I will personally go out. Okay, let's formulate a strategy first. You clapped his hands, attracting the attention of all the team members, but Kaiying and Zhu's Huking's expressions were the most serious. Other auxiliary soul masters such as Yadir, Shi Lingling, and Mikong were all members who would not play, so naturally they were not so enthusiastic. Are you kidding? The auxiliary soul masters have no fighting power. If they are allowed to play, isn't that asking for abuse? What's more, their soul power is very low. They are generally at the level of great soul masters. Only 3 of them have reached the level of soul masters. They can be regarded as the lowest level of players in the soul master competition. No matter what, the other college teams are also a combination of soul masters and soul ancestor. Even soul masters are generally above level 35, and there are rarely players around level 30. Otherwise, they are not here to play, but to make a fool of themselves. I'm responsible for the finale, is that okay? Uranium said first. Yes. Zhu's Huking nodded lightly, motioning Uranium to continue. Kaiying, you are responsible for the first 2 battles. According to the normal process of the promotion match, the first few games are generally to send out the players who can fight but are not the strongest. The strongest or the second strongest players will not be sent out. So you have to eat them. This is your only chance to play. Uranium pointed at Kaiying, and the meaning was very clear. It was to arrange 2 fights for you. Just for the sake of it. You can't handle the strong ones. Well, Captain, I am not without the ability to fight against the Soul Sect. The quality of their martial spirits is far different from mine, so I have a chance to win. Kaing sensed a faint contempt in Uranium, and immediately defended himself with a righteous look. However, what he got was a look of disgust from Uranium. Come on, you can only beat the Soul Sect with your best. Normally, you can only beat the Soul Lord at level 38 or 39. You don't save your stuff for the finals, but you want to use it in the promotion match. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. However, Kaing's words made Uranium think of the silver-haired girl Diana in the Shrek team. Kaing said that he, a level 33 Soul Lord, can normally beat a level 38 or 39 Soul Lord with his super martial spirit, so can Diana, a level 48 Soul Lord, normally beat an ordinary Soul King? Moreover, the Shrek team must have a backup hidden tactic, not only Tang Sen, but also Diana, who is also a somewhat difficult opponent. Because he doesn't know what Diana's trump card is. Forget it, even these super martial spirits are still far behind me, so what if they are dark horses? It's simply a foolish dream to want to beat me. In his heart, Uranium slowly shook his head and eliminated these miscellaneous speculations. The next moment, Uranium regained his calm demeanor, glanced at Zhu Xiuqing who was indifferent, and continued, Xiuqing, your task is to finish the game. I am not worried about you in one-on-one situations, but what you need to pay more attention to is how to deal with opponents efficiently and with low consumption. You rely more on soul power than ordinary soul masters, so you need to pay special attention to this. As for me, I am the last guarantee, responsible for dealing with difficult captain-level soul masters, which means that you are almost exhausted, and the next difficult opponent, do you understand? The last sentence was asked together with Zhu Xiuqing while looking at Kaing. After Zhu Xiuqing defeated 3 or even 4 opponents in a row, she would definitely not be able to beat the captain who is the last one to appear without much soul power. It's just that I hope that my appearance time will be delayed continuously. After all, this way, it can also better train you. Oh, yes, remember one thing, if you can't beat them, just surrender. It's not shameful. When the time comes, I will get back at you. At the end, Uranium did not forget to say something about safety. Regardless of victory or failure, at least no one should be hurt. Okay, let's start the special training. For the next month, your opponent will be me. After speaking, Uranium clapped his hands, attracting everyone's attention, and motioned Kaing and Zhu Xiuqing to come aside. Ah, are you going to be abused for a month? Kaing's face suddenly became bitter. Chapter 289 One-on-One, Fierce Battle. Sharingan Royal Academy. Open Air Training Ground Number 2. You have the captain to practice with you, but you are still not satisfied. After seeing Kaing's bitter face, Yaddle on the side laughed and joked. Although there were combat training in the past, it was always the vice captain who took action. The captain personally took action a few times, except for a few times at the beginning, and then all the time it was done by Zhu Xiuqing, which was simply a few. Seeing that the captain was going to conduct a one-on-one training between Kaing and Zhu Xiuqing, Yaddle immediately looked forward to it. That's right, but Kaing wanted to argue, but felt Zhu Xiuqing's cold eyes. I will train strictly. Kaing immediately changed his tone. Since you are ready, then you come with me, starting with you first. Uranium took a look at Kaing, who was cheering up and ready, and walked straight to the martial arts field. There are 2 places for training in Sharingan Royal Academy, namely the training ground and the martial arts field. The training ground is open to all students and is a place where students gather. The martial arts field is a higher level and is a secret special training place exclusively for the Royal Dou team. After all, once people know about this kind of practical exercises about secret tactical matching, tactical strategies, and team cooperation in advance, there is no need to hide it. Walking on the road, Uranium said as he walked, this time, I will use the strength of a 41st level Soul Master and a strong attack system Soul Master. You don't have to win. At least, you can hold on for an incense stick. It's okay. Uranium's tone was filled with a sense of certainty. After hearing this request, Kaing's expression became more solemn. He understood that the captain's strength was all round. Don't say that every Soul Master has shortcomings. He didn't even know how many trump cards the captain had, such as the black and green full body armor without a single exposed piece of armor, or the mental power that occasionally appeared in the mouth of the deputy captain Zhu Xiuqing. Like a bottomless spring, all signs indicate that the captain is extraordinary. And to persist in the captain's hands, it is impossible without using all your strength. Soon, the Royal Fighting Team 2 came to the secret martial arts field. Without any delay, Uranium has already stood in the center of the building halfway up the mountain, stepping on whole blocks of blue bricks. And Kai has also slowly walked to Uranium, with a solemn face, muscles tensed, eyes fixed on Uranium's figure, waiting seriously. "Let you go first." Uranium glanced at Kai, casually took out a bunch of incense from behind, pulled out one, and lit it with a twist of his fingers. Then, in the blink of an eye, the incense had been inserted into the ground, and there was no tremor at all. Seeing this scene, Kai's pupils shrank suddenly. What a steady technique! The soul power condensed on the incense and shot directly into the blue bricks. Not only did the incense not break during the whole process, but there was not even a tremor. Unknowingly, has the captain become so strong? Kai sighed in his heart. "Captain, I won't be polite then." After seeing that the incense had been lit, Kai immediately said seriously. Then, Kai shouted in a low voice, "Dark Devil Scythe." 2 yellow and 1 purple, 3 soul rings appeared on Kai's body, moving up and down, flashing 2 solid colors. The surrounding air also became agitated with the appearance of the martial spirit. Cold and manic, 2 completely different auras appeared from Kai's body in red and blue. As Kai raised his head, it was visible to the naked eye that his right eye was rendered with a touch of crimson, and even his pupils turned into vertical pupils like dragons. If it was the first time that outsiders saw it, then they would unconsciously flash a word in their heart's destruction. The Dark Devil Scythe is the incarnation of lust. Its quality is above all weapon martial spirits. This is exactly what Uranium values. Kai is talented enough. As long as he is properly trained, he will be a very useful subordinate. Even a helper, so Uranium will spare no effort to train him. Kai's arm holding the sickle was quickly covered by the hideous armor like obsidian, until it stopped at his shoulder. The whole person, at the moment of being possessed by the martial spirit, was filled with a sense of danger. Without saying much, Kai moved. With the first soul skill, the giant sickle swept across. In an instant, the dark demon sickle in Kai's hand emitted a stream of blood-colored soul power, as if the sickle blade continued to extend and condensed into a very exaggerated soul power sickle. More than 10 meters away, it slashed directly at Uranium. The whistling sickle blade exploded with a shrill sound of breaking through the air, and the next moment, it swept in front of Uranium's waist. At this time, he suddenly made an unexpected move. He did not dodge Kai's first soul skill, and he didn't even want to move. The soul power attached to his arm formed a translucent soul power shield, and then directly and forcefully hit the sharp sickle blade. The two collided with a loud bang. The creaking sound of metal rubbing against each other resounded throughout the venue, and the crowd watching the game could not help but feel their teeth ache. Then, Uranium began to quickly approach Kai. Because he did not use his full strength, he only barely controlled his soul power, speed, and strength at the level of Soul Master, so this time there was no visual enjoyment like the previous fleeting moment. However, this time, Uranium gave people a rather heavy sense of oppression. Solid and heavy, this was Kai's first feeling. However, the sickle blade was too big, and Kai was a little difficult to operate. Although it was condensed by soul power and was not heavy, when he tried to chop again, Uranium simply bent down and raised his hand, and Kai's first soul skill was shaken up. Just when Kai was about to redirect the direction of the giant sickle, Uranium had already bullied him and punched Kai in the chest with a fierce punch. There was no way, Kai could only restrain his first soul skill, and the Dark Devil Scythe once again turned into normal human size, and then faced Uranium's punch head-on, moving his feet slightly, and floating to the back with a seemingly illusory step. But this punch was just a feint. When it seemed that Kai would miss, Uranium stomped his fist suddenly, and the next moment he jumped up, his wrist trembling slightly, as if a series of sharp claws popped out, and followed Kai to sweep over. This was the claws of the beast martial spirit copied with soul power. It seemed that the sharp illusory claws were still flashing with a little cold light. Kai's scalp was about to explode when the sharp sweep was about to hide him. He did not expect that there would be an attack after the punch. In an instant, the hair on Kai's body had traces of being cut. Uranium's change of moves was too fast, so fast that Kaing could not react. But Kaing was not an ordinary soul master who lost his sense of proportion when he panicked. Almost without hesitation, the purple soul ring on Kaing's body began to shine. Shadow Step. Kaing, who was originally a little illusory because of his steps, completely turned into a blue phantom at this moment. The latest novels are first published on 69 Shuba. And Uranium's merciless claws also pounced into nothingness. At this moment, Kaing and Uranium seemed to overlap, but Kaing was still retreating. After taking a quick look at his chest, which only had a few broken cuts and no skin cut, Kaing couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Fortunately, after activating the Shadow Step, he was in an invincible spirit state for a short period of time. Although it can last for 10 seconds, as long as he launches an attack, this spirit state will disappear, which means that he can't stop yet. The captain is still outside. Just as Kaing frowned and thought about how to survive this period of time, suddenly, he heard a hoarse hum. Kaing, you seem to need help. It's lost. Kaing's heart suddenly tightened, but then he relaxed. He took a few steps back, avoided Uranium, and immediately taunted Lost, forget it, your broken sickle can't even cut a captain's soul shield. You are just holding me back by helping me. Idiot. I'm just a sickle, you are the one who holds it. You have such a shameful soul level, and you still dare to talk about me. After hearing Kaing's sarcasm, Lost couldn't help but retort. But Lost's rebuttal was met with Kaing's sneer mixed with anger. You still have the nerve to talk about soul level, it's all your fault. Lost was silent. It wanted to say something, but found that it seemed to be the one who was the pitfall, and there was nothing to say at all. Forget it, what can you do? The 10-second spirit state of Shadow Step is about to end. If I can't make a decision, I will be torn apart by the captain's close-range fighting skills within 10 breaths at most. During the spirit state, Kaing will not be attacked, so he has time to curse with Lost, but seeing that the time is running out, Kaing also became a little impatient. Roar, haven't you guessed it? The shadow soul power is wandering in your body. You can dodge it as a shadow assassin, but you have to reduce your control over me because I will interfere with you. And if it comes to close combat, then release me and swing me towards his flesh and blood. Lost is like a teacher, teaching the young Kaing a special fighting method. Unlike in the past, the power of the Darkborn and the Shadow must be clearly separated. At this moment, Kaing is more suitable to control the power of both at the same time. In close combat, use the Furious Lost to cut the enemy into pieces. And in the chase battle, rely on the cold and dark Shadow Soul power to control the situation. Just like Tang San integrated Zuanshan Guang into the operation of soul power, the Shadow Soul power in Kaing's body was derived from Lost's special transformation. If Lost was the dark side, then Kaing might be called the ultimate dark attribute. But unfortunately, he was not. I understand. Kaing nodded solemnly. The next moment, the Shadow Step ended. After seeing Kaing reveal his physical body, Uranium did not hesitate and rushed directly to Kaing. He naturally heard the conversation between Kaing and Lost, which was indeed very useful. This was a brand new battle idea, and it could even allow Kaing to derive different fighting styles and skills. However, in front of him, Kaing's ideas and methods that had not been put into actual combat were of no use. As a variant martial soul of the Sharingan, the Radiation Eyes 3 Magatama copies could not copy soul skills, but if you wanted to see through the body skills, it was still very easy. So before, there was a copy of Tang San's Ghost Shadow Trace body skills, which made Tang San think that Uranium was also a member of the Tang sect, and that he was not alone in this world. And now, as long as Kaing dares to use shadow skills to avoid him, then Uranium will dare to copy Kaing's skills and chase Kaing. Chapter 290 A Stick of Incense. After understanding what he should do, Kaing stopped hesitating. He stopped trying to control the dark inside in his hand with all his strength, and instead tried to activate the dark shadow soul power in his body. It was visible to the naked eye that Kaing's original obsidian armor on his entire arm and shoulder began to retreat. The shoulder armor disappeared on its own, and the armor on his arm also disappeared, but the front half of Kaing's arm was always retained, forming a ferocious black armor in the style of a handguard. Then, Kaing's scarlet vertical pupils changed color as the soul power operated, becoming dark and deep blue, chilling to the heart. The previous moment, Kaing was still in that aggressive and fiery posture. The next moment, he had restrained that temperament, and the whole person was covered with a faint soul power light. Everything seemed weird and dangerous. And at this moment, Uranium's attack arrived. A powerful sidekick carrying a strong soul power hit Kaing's chest directly. Soul skill, Scythe Sweep. Kaing's dark scythe seemed to have turned into a mixture of gray and blue. The light blue soul power wrapped around the dark scythe, as if it had no bones. It floated in front of Uranium and blocked Uranium's sidekick. Uranium's eyes flashed a scorching light. He did not dodge or evade. He used his 3-inch soul claws to grab the back of the dark scythe and pressed it directly to the ground. However, during the pressing process, Uranium's arm flashed with white light, and soul power gathered, quickly forming a light arm covering Uranium's other hand. Bang! The ground collided with the dark scythe, and the blue brick was instantly pierced, but then, the dark scythe stuck on the ground suddenly disappeared, turned into soul power, and reappeared in Kaing's hand. The martial soul is originally transformed by soul power, so naturally it will not be restricted from using the martial soul in the future. But his goal has been achieved. During this time when the martial soul was vacuum, Uranium's left hand, which was covered by soul power, suddenly hammered towards Kaing. Mixed with heavy soul power, his punch seemed to have turned into a beam of light. Kaing saw it clearly. He understood that it was too late to use his martial soul to resist again, and this was what the captain wanted to see. Since he chose to use this state, he had to be prepared to face a sudden close combat. As a last resort, Kaing gritted his teeth, condensed his soul power like uranium, and punched directly. Bang! A strong wave of air burst directly from the contact point of the two fists, and shook it all around. Kaing's face changed, and he retreated dozens of steps directly, only to feel that his fist was extremely numb. His punch that condensed the shadow soul power should have the effect of eroding the opponent's soul power and meridians, blood and flesh, but now, it was directly dispersed by the captain's soul power. The two separated in this fist, and Kaing was pushed back dozens of steps. If he didn't have some strange characteristics, it might be caused by the passiveness of the shadow step, or it might be some other reason. According to Uranium's expectation, this punch should be able to directly knock Kaing to the ground and end the battle directly, but now it seems that he has only been beaten to disorder of ki and blood, and numbness in his limbs. Do you think your current strength is very strong? I only have the strength of an ordinary soul master, but it is more concentrated. Moreover, it is very irrational for you to fight me head-on. Your soul power is not as high as mine. You have little chance of winning this kind of competition purely relying on soul power. Think about it again. What should you do when using this shadow state? At this time, Uranium suddenly spoke coldly. I am just showing the instantaneous burst of an ordinary strong attack system. Although you are also a strong attack system, you don't have the capital to fight with others after the amplification of the physique. Unless you use your second soul skill, the Dark Incarnation, to further release the Dark Incarnation side, otherwise your strength is only the level of the 37th or 38th level of the Agile attack system. Hearing this, Kaing was stunned. That's right, the second soul skill, Dark Incarnation, is a soul skill that can continuously release Lost's power. As Lost's power is released, his physical fitness and soul power increase will be significantly enhanced, but this will also greatly reduce the soul power reserve, which is equivalent to a soul skill that continuously consumes soul power, becomes stronger with each battle, until the soul power is exhausted and loses combat effectiveness. This is also the reason why Kaing dared to say that he, a level 33 soul master, can also beat an ordinary level 40 soul master. But now, with the flow of shadow soul power, the power of the dark side is constantly suppressed, and his power is also reduced. Fighting hard will only lead to failure. Uranium's words seemed to wake Kaing up. I understand, just like Lost said, if you enter a close battle, then release it. Kaing nodded slightly, shook his sore left hand, and his eyes became serious again. Captain, continue. Remember, you have to know where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, don't rush forward stupidly. Uranium gave a few instructions and rushed over directly. The speed was not fast, and it was a very ordinary momentum. He stretched out his hand and threw an ordinary punch at Kaing. Seeing this scene, everyone frowned slightly. Such a punch didn't seem to be as powerful as the one just now. Could it hurt Kaing? Kaing was also stunned. He thought that the captain's punch would be very powerful, but he didn't expect it to be so ordinary. But when he thought of what he should do at this moment, Kaing gritted his teeth, gently pulled down the darkened side, held it upside down on his back, stepped lightly, and floated to the back to avoid it. The illusory ice blue luster seemed to cover Kai-Ing's whole body, and the whole person became a little transparent, but this visual effect was not because he activated the shadow step, but because of the characteristics of the shadow soul power. This represents speed. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar, and the liberation of the darkened side represents power. Within milliseconds, Uranium pounced on the position where Kai-Ing was originally standing, but Kai-Ing had already moved away from him under the speed increase. This is what Kai-Ing wanted to do. Since the captain said that he would use the speed and strength of a 41st level strong attack spirit master, if he could use a speed that exceeded this level of spirit power, would it mean that the captain could not catch him? Tianzhen, although I have only used the physical fitness of an ordinary spirit master now, the gap between my spirit power and yours is as high as 7 or 8 levels. Your speed cannot make up for such a big gap. Moreover, the strong attack spirit master also has his own physical fitness increased spirit skills, which means that the gap is even greater. You are now at most the speed of a 38th or 39th level spirit master. Uranium saw through Kai-Ing's thoughts. Almost instantly, his figure blurred a little and rushed towards Kai-Ing. Kai-Ing felt his scalp tingling, and without hesitation, he rushed to the other side. For a while, this training had become a chase and escape. But in the end, as the incense burned shorter and shorter, Kai-Ing was still caught. Second soul skill, Dark Incarnation. Kai-Ing used his second soul skill without hesitation, using loss to increase his physical fitness and soul power in close combat. However, because the surging shadow soul power in his body had not yet fully adapted to the sudden change in the nature of his martial soul, during this short period of time, Kai-Ing's eyes suddenly widened. The martial soul aura generated by the sudden release of lust made it impossible for his second soul skill to increase Kai-Ing in the first place. Uranium also noticed that Kai-Ing seemed to have a disordered breath, but he didn't care and punched Kai-Ing in the face directly. When that punch came, countless soul powers gathered madly towards Uranium's arm. Almost in an instant, a huge transparent iron fist was formed. That iron fist was almost bigger than Kai-Ing's 2 heads. Such a huge iron fist gave people a very shocking feeling. In this regard, Kai-Ing could only try his best to block it, crossing his arms and blocking it in front of him. Boom! This punch hit. The unparalleled sense of power exploded directly. Kai-Ing seemed to be hit by a bus and flew backwards. The momentum was unstoppable and Kai-Ing flew out. He was not seriously injured, but the iron fist was too big and the impact was too strong. Bang! Kai-Ing fell to the ground and rolled several times before he was helped up by someone. At this moment, the incense stick seemed to have burned out. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291. 1 month later. Kai-Ing was defeated at the last second with difficulty. During this period, Uranium used soul power to copy Daimyo-based Tiger Claws, the amplified White Tiger Vajra transformation, a defensive soul power shield, and soul power condensed in his hands. To outsiders, it seemed that there were just 4 soul skills. However, soul skills are naturally impossible to be exactly the same as the original. But Uranium only slightly raised his combat power to the 42nd level of soul power. It was verbally said to be similar to the White Tiger Vajra transformation, but it was not a real copy. Because of soul power, the copying effect of the Sharingan is not very useful, because soul skills are closely related to martial spirits. He can't use his radiation eye martial spirit to release some White Tiger light waves, right? However, for things that do not require soul power, such as body movements and techniques, the Sharingan is more proficient. He even stole a ghost shadow body movement. If he saw Tang San's crane control and dragon capture, perhaps this could also be used. Therefore, he originally planned to copy the shadow body skills that Kai-Ing would show next, but unfortunately, he found that it seemed to be derived from the shadow soul power. Even if he copied it, it was just an ordinary step. Okay, it's over. How do you feel? Uranium walked slowly to Kai-Ing's side and asked lightly. He was referring to Kai-Ing's hasty resistance in the last free time just now. After all, although his punch was restrained at the end, it was not something that a 33rd level soul master could block. But surprisingly, Kang didn't seem to suffer many serious injuries. I feel okay, and I seem to see the direction of my next training. Kang wiped the sweat on his pale face and said, panting. At the last moment, if he could directly let the second soul skill, the Dark Incarnation, release the power of Lost, perhaps he would not be defeated on the spot, at least he could hold on for a while. The conversion speed between the two was not satisfactory. There is nothing wrong with your battle thinking. On the contrary, it can help you become stronger as soon as possible. Moreover, you can't fall behind in your soul power training. Level 33 is not enough after all. Uranium nodded and acknowledged Kang's words. Cold and violent, these are two completely different fighting styles. And Kang, what he needs is to convert these two as soon as possible, shorten the time required for fighting, and run in. Kang, next, I will train you in this aspect until you can survive 1 incense stick, 2 incense sticks, and 3 incense sticks under the suppression of ordinary level 41 soul masters. As he spoke, Uranium waved his hand and signaled a healing soul master in the martial arts arena to come over. Hello, please. Uranium nodded to the healing soul master. This is a white-haired old man in gorgeous clothes who looks about 60 years old. His martial soul is the healing tree, and his soul power level is level 61 Soul Emperor. He was Uranium. He informed Zhu King. It was rumored that this was the healing soul master who served the prince in the palace, Emperor Zhu Yi. At present, he was brought here by Zhu King and lent to Uranium for a month. Haha, you're welcome. The old man nodded in response, and then summoned his martial soul, the healing tree. It was a tall tree that required 2 people to hug together, and it barely reached the dome in the martial arts arena. 4th soul skill, healing leaf. The old man hummed softly, and the 4th purple soul ring on his body began to shine. He raised his hands, and soft green began to appear in his palms. The next moment, pieces of green leaves flew out from the tree with a huge umbrella and fell on Kang's body. It was visible to the naked eye that the injuries and bruises on Kang's body subsided. Kang only felt an extremely comfortable coolness, which instantly spread throughout his body. Whether it was the extremely sore muscles or the bruises caused by the hard hammer, they were all recovering at an astonishing speed. Even their physical strength was gradually recovering bit by bit, and even their soul power, which was mostly empty, was affected by the green leaves. After a moment, the old man retracted his martial soul, nodded slightly to Uranium, and then floated away from the center of the martial arts field, returned to the rocking chair just now, and continued to close his eyes to recuperate. It seemed that this healing soul master planned to spend the next month like this. Hey, I'm all recovered. Kang clenched his fists and found that his body seemed to be full of vitality, and there was no pain at all, just like a new life. Of course, Soul Emperor treats Soul Lord, and he also uses the 4th soul skill. Do you still think you should leave some hidden injuries? Uranium smiled and said unceremoniously. Besides, since your body is almost healed, continue, your battle is not over yet. Suddenly, Uranium pointed to the field on the side and said loudly. Ah. Kang suddenly felt many question marks popping up above his head, as if he didn't understand what the captain said. Be obedient, come here. Uranium had already walked to the side and waved to Kang. At this moment, Kang felt an extremely cold chill. Captain, you cured me just to continue to beat me. Kang looked at the healing soul master on the side, and then looked at the smiling you again, and suddenly felt desperate. How else? I'll let you rest for a day after beating you once. Come here quickly, you can't rest before Mr. Edward's soul power is exhausted today. As the saying goes, how can you beat others without being beaten? The Edward mentioned by you was naturally the Soul Emperor healing soul master. Captain, can I not let that Soul Emperor come to treat me? Kang was about to cry. Beat him up, then heal him, and then continue to beat him after being cured. What kind of torture is this? What do you think? These 3 simple words immediately made Kang shudder all over, and his face changed again and again. The latest novels are published on the 69th book bar. He felt that if he didn't go over, the captain would come over and beat him up. At this time, even the usually talkative Lost seemed to have lost his voice. Under all kinds of pressure, he only felt his scalp was numb. In the end, Kang could only walk towards Uranium stiffly step by step. It seemed that he was not facing training, but hell. Time passed little by little, and Yadrir, Miss Aura, Shi Lingling and others had already left a martial arts arena. However, waves of heart-wrenching screams continued to be heard from within this building. Ah! Captain, Don't. I've already given up. Woo woo, I don't want to be beaten anymore, let me go. Captain Kyang, get up, don't lie on the ground and pretend to be dead. This kind of day lasted for a whole month. The screams continued to echo in the martial arts arena. Because of the presence of the healing soul master Edward, Kyang's screams were always full of energy, and there was no sign of exhaustion. 1 month is not a long time, but it is a nightmare for Kyang. It is no exaggeration to say that he has been beaten up since the first day. To put it nicely, the captain is training him. But according to the other female team members, this level of training should have broken even a piece of iron, and it is a miracle that Kyang is still not cold. Chapter 292 The eve of the promotional tournament. The day before the promotion match, in the martial arts arena, Uranium had just finished the last training with Kyang. Tomorrow is the promotion match, you have to perform well, at least, you have to beat 3 opponents to pass. If you don't pass, this level of training will continue, don't let me down, Kyang. Looking at Kyang who was like a puddle of mud, Uranium patted the dust off his body and said quietly. It was almost night, and there was no one in the martial arts arena except the 2 of them. There was silence all around, only Uranium's voice was still echoing. No. Kyang lay on the ground, face down, and responded weakly. Is this the feeling of running out of soul power? After seeing that Kyang couldn't get up in a short time, Uranium also shook his head slightly, and then strode out of the martial arts arena and walked towards his home. As Uranium gradually disappeared from Kyang's sight, Kyang, who was about to die of exhaustion, suddenly stood up with a bang, but fell to his knees again because he was weak all over. However, the physical pain seemed to be unable to defeat him. Kyang couldn't help crying with joy after seeing that Uranium had left and there was no one around. Finally. I finally survived to this day. Woohoo, I am liberated. This is not a dream. This is more real than my dream. Woohoo, it's finally over. No one can imagine what it is like to be beaten by the captain and then cured by the healing soul emperor, and then beaten repeatedly. Even Kyang himself was very shocked that he could really hold on until now. When he thought that he would not have such an experience in the future, he couldn't help but shed a line of hot tears. But the next moment, Kyang took back the relief on his face, and his expression gradually became solemn. The captain just said that we must defeat 3 opponents, otherwise this experience will happen again. He knows that although I have been promoted to level 34, the promotion matches are all top teams from other principalities and kingdoms. It is already the limit to defeat 2 at most, let alone 3. Kyang began to think about the request just made by Uranium, and frowned. And I can only defeat 3 trainees in this round-robin situation if I use all my strength, otherwise everything will be out of the question. My strength has been confirmed by the captain during this training. He should not let me fight others with a non-complete body. In other words, the captain means that I should fight with all my strength. After sorting out the clues, Kyang's eyes gradually brightened. Great, I have been beaten by the captain every day. I have long wanted to try to beat others. Hey, Lost, don't you want to say a few words? Kyang was talking, and suddenly found that Lost in his body seemed to have no sound, so he asked immediately. What are you talking about? Roar, I actually miss this period of time. You know, you get beaten, but it has nothing to do with my sickle, ha ha ha. Lost's iconic hoarse voice sounded, echoing in this empty martial arts arena. Hearing this, Kyang's face suddenly darkened. But when Lost's next words sounded, Kyang couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Besides, I really like fighting with that captain. Don't you realize that he said that he used the strength of the 41st level strong attack system fighting Soul Sect, but by the 10th day, he had reached the 42nd level, and by the 25th day, it was the 43rd level. In contrast, your strength has also been forcibly raised in this month. Lost's words were very bewitching and infectious, as if you could still hear the slight burning feeling in his voice. You mean? Kyang asked uncertainly. Roar, that's right, you have unconsciously begun to adapt and release my power. Remember, fighting with spirit masters of the strong attack, agility attack, strength, and defense systems can make your body stronger. Lost laughed like a duck, constantly shaking Kyang's mind. And if you fight with spirit masters of the control, auxiliary, and food systems, you can further strengthen your spirit power and mental strength. However, these 2 ways of becoming stronger are very cruel. Then, Lost continued to add, it's cruel to you. Look, That captain beats you at least 50 times every day, and squeezes your spirit power clean, further stimulating your potential. He beats you at least 1,500 times a month. Only under this high-intensity training can you get a 2-level improvement. Think about it, in ordinary life and ordinary battles, I'm afraid you won't even improve by 1 level in 2 or 3 years, right? This. Kiang was silent. Originally, he thought that this kind of hidden and silent improvement was very profitable. Although he was beaten, he also became stronger. Maybe he could become stronger by this in the future. However, with Lost's in-depth analysis, Kiang found that this way of improving by fighting would inevitably turn him into a war maniac who only knew how to fight and didn't know how to rest. I'm afraid this is also the price of holding Lost's dark side. Although fighting can make you stronger, if you fight all day and night, anyone will probably have brain problems. If you don't do that, but just go through your daily life, this improvement speed will be very slow, because as he gets stronger, the opponents who can give him this extreme pressure will become more scarce, and there are not so many opponents who are willing to train him unconditionally. It can be said that this training is a special treatment specially opened by the captain for him, because the promotion match is the most test of personal strength. At his age, I'm afraid this is also the last chance to become famous on the continent. The Pan-Continental Elite Soul Master Academy Competition. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. The only ranking above this is the most grand competition in the continent, the sect ranking competition. But this kind of competition is held every few decades. The last time the Haoshan sect won the first sect was when Tang Chen was in power. It can be said that it is a once-in-a-lifetime series. Forget it. Although it is convenient to become stronger through fighting, I already have one more way to become stronger than other soul masters. I don't need to focus on this. I'd better think more about tomorrow's promotion game. Finally, Kiang shook his head and shook off the thoughts of asking the captain for help. I don't want to be beaten anymore, Lost, you can understand how I feel. Now, I just want to live up to the captain's expectations and let everyone see that although I am the weakest in the royal fighting team too, I am much stronger than these college teams. Fight, and then fall. This is their only way. Kiang's eyes were filled with a confident glow. Oh, you make me a little excited, Kiang. Then let me see the power of the future strong. You will get what you want, Lost. Chapter 293 The promotion match begins. The next day, the promotion match officially began. Compared with the preliminaries, the promotion match was much calmer. Because it was held in the royal hunting ground outside Dou City, it was for efficient fighting. In this fighting environment, it is impossible to maximize personal strength in the great fighting soul arena. A total of 15 colleges from the Dou Empire have qualified and will compete in the promotion match. In order to protect the privacy of the soul masters and for safety considerations, no civilians or noble spectators are allowed to watch the promotion match. But this does not mean that there are no spectators. On the contrary, most of those who can witness this game are senior generals of the Royal Knights, and even Emperor Ziyi in the palace and some high-level officials of the Dou City Wuhan Temple. The promotion match is still divided into 2 empires. The 30 teams that passed the preliminaries will compete in their respective empires, and the 3 teams that have entered the finals in advance will not participate in the promotion match. On the Dou Empire side, including the 5 teams that qualified from the Dou City qualifying division, a total of 15 teams had completed the registration process in the morning and gathered at the location of the promotion match. There were fewer teams, but those who were able to pass the qualifiers were undoubtedly the elite among the elites. When everyone from the Dou Royal Academy arrived at the royal hunting ground, the representative teams of the other 5 principalities had already arrived early. They came from their own kingdom sometime in advance, naturally to find out the news of the 5 teams that appeared in the Dou Empire. After all, the 5 principalities and kingdoms are very far away from Dou City. If you want to know the detailed information of the players of each team and the situation of the Dou City qualifying, you need to find out these intelligence. As everyone walked into the royal hunting ground, a captain of the Royal Knights came outside to check the notes, and then sent someone to place the Royal Dou Team 2 in the house in the hunting ground. They were taken to a large military camp, and a total of 5 barracks were allocated for them to rest. The military barracks are naturally not luxurious, but they are very clean. They will be here for the next 15 days. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble and conflict, and to prevent the strength of each academy entering the promotion competition from being observed by other academies, all 15 teams of high-level Soul Masters entering the promotion competition were arranged to rest in different places. The promotion competition is also a round-robin system, but because the number of teams has been reduced a lot, the competition time has been reduced from 1 month to half a month. After another half a month of rest, the finals will be held at the junction of the two empires of Xiandao and Xingluo, Wuhan City. At this time, most of the team members have been in the hunting ground. They are dressed differently. Because they are from the Kingdom Academy of the Xiandao Empire, Uranium can sense that most of them are not too strong. In the 15 academies, except for the 3 major elemental academies, there are no more than 30 players above level 40. In each team, there are only 2 or 3, and some strong ones have about 4. After checking the surrounding environment, Uranium signaled the other team members to find a room to rest. He occupied 1 room, Zhu Huqing occupied 1 room, Kaiying occupied 1 room, and the remaining 3 rooms were divided among the female students such as Yada Ir, Shi Lingling, and Mikuang. After all, this match had nothing to do with them. They just came here to join in the fun and watch the game. Then he cleared his throat, looked at Kaiying and Zhu Huqing and said, "I will reiterate the rules of this match. The promotion match will officially begin in a while. At that time, someone will take you to the competition venue. There will be no opening ceremony for the promotion match. After the draw, the game will start directly. The victory or defeat of the game will be jointly judged by the special personnel of the Empire and the Spirit Hall to show fairness. The promotion match is not like the preliminaries where there are multiple arenas at the same time. There is only one competition venue, which is the Royal Knights Grand Parade Ground. There are a total of 15 teams participating in the promotion match. They will play 14 rounds of round-robin matches, 1 round per day. Every day, one team will have a bye and play 7 games, all in the same venue. In other words, if they are lucky in the draw, they can have a bye every day. The rules of the battle are also very simple. Each side sends 7 players to participate. Each player on the field must fight until they are defeated. The winner will face the next opponent until all 7 players on one side are defeated. In this regard, Kaiying, you should strive to defeat more people. Don't worry, you can't kill people in the game. You won't be killed by others because of your lack of soul power. Just let go and fight. The time to show your strength has come. The promotion game depends on personal strength, but in the previous preliminaries, we all went through 7 people by ourselves. I think it won't be difficult for you in a one-on-one situation." While speaking, Uranium glanced at Kaiying. The other party gave Uranium a firm look in return. "That's about it. Okay, take a break. When all the participating colleges are here, those soldiers will come back to notify us to participate in the competition." After explaining the rules, Uranium drank a sip of water to smooth it out, then leaned against the wall and closed his eyes to rest. Not long after, the 15 teams gathered and directly held a lottery competition in the large parade ground in the center of the hunting ground. The grand parade ground was remodeled, with a 100-meter diameter area in the center as the competition venue. Compared with the arena in the preliminaries, the space here is wider and naturally easier to display one's strength. On the north side of the grand parade ground, a temporary VIP seat was built facing north and south, which was also the referee seat. This time, there were not as many VIPs watching the game as last time. There were fewer nobles. Looking around, except for the first row of Emperor Zhu Yi, Ning Fengzi, and Platinum Bishop Saris, the seats behind were filled with people dressed as generals and some high-level officials of the Spirit Hall Xiandao City Spirit Hall. Between the large circle formed by the knights and the competition venue, the 15 participating teams had already arrived at the scene. Even the teams that had a bye today were no exception. Even if they didn't have to compete, they had to see the strength of their opponents clearly. Emperor Zhu Yi stood up from the VIP seat and said loudly through the soul guide, "The promotion match officially begins today. In the next 14 days, I hope that the teams of each academy will give full play to their own strengths and show the demeanor that soul masters should have. Let's start." As soon as he finished speaking, shouts like a landslide and tsunami rang out in unison, "Long live, long live, long live." The royal knights raised their lances high, and the clanging of armor and their loud shouts immediately scared the other participating soul masters. The demeanor of a great country was undoubtedly demonstrated. 15 teams drew lots for one-on-one matches, and one team had a bye. Dou Royal Academy drew the first match. Unfortunately, it was Blazing Fire Academy. The promotion match did not have any red tape, and all kinds of cumbersome ceremonies were removed. The game started as soon as the draw was made. It was completely for the game. The latest novel is first published on the 69th Book Forum. Dou Royal Academy was the last to appear. Uranium just watched the teams in front of them quietly. Tang San and his team played against a Bara Kingdom team, and were defeated by Xiao Wu 1-5, and then admitted defeat. Among them, there was a soul master who used sunflowers. He originally thought that he could use the characteristics of his martial soul to poison Xiao Wu, but Xiao Wu was restrained by the red love heartbreak, and he was solved in a few moves. It was also believed that Xiao Wu also had a soul bone that specifically restrained this poisonous plant martial soul. The red love heartbreak is a special fairy grass in the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire, but now it has been eaten by Xiao Wu, so she has a miraculous effect on various flower martial souls. Among them, even the flower-loving title Douluo of the Wuhan Hall is included. It's just that the difference in strength is still a bit too big, so it can't be seen. Captain, what's the point of watching these games? Kaing stood beside you and asked in confusion. These people didn't seem to be that powerful. He's just watching people. Zhu Huking on the other side suddenly spoke up and answered for you. But faintly, Kaing seemed to feel that there seemed to be something else in the vice captain's words. Yu was silent. After a moment, he looked back with a wry smile. You know, she and you mean different things to me. You could only respond helplessly to Zhu Huking's unconscious sourness. If it weren't for Xiao Wu, he would probably have completely turned evil in the Xingdao Great Forest and was ready to destroy the world. The world is not worth it. Because the lonely forest, the soul beasts full of murderous intent, and the destruction that accompanies him can only bring devastating despair. The nightmare that follows him like a shadow seems to suffocate and chokes his throat. However, it was Xiao Wu who made him understand that there are still good people in this world, and there are still people who are willing to help strangers for free, to help him, a person who has no one to rely on in the forest. Perhaps, this is also his original intention to establish the Dongfeng organization. He once saw Xiao Wu's helping hand in the most dangerous time. Perhaps, there are more people like him in this world who are in urgent need of rescue. He wants to be the hope of the weak in this world. This chapter is close to 3,000 words. Including the previous one, I wrote another 1,000 words more than yesterday. I will try to update 3 times tomorrow to see if the limit of the update is 3 or 4 times. Chapter 294, Battle against Blazing Academy. Soon it was the last match. Dou Royal Academy and Chihiro Academy. The name of Dou Royal Academy Royal Team 2 was very well known to the other 10 teams from other kingdoms and principalities, except for the 4 teams from Dou City. Because the name was too big, one person could win the game, even if it was just a gimmick, it would attract attention, not to mention it was real. So when Kaing walked onto the field, all the teams that had finished the game naturally watched very seriously. They were also very familiar with the name of Chihiro Academy. Moreover, this was an individual battle, not a team battle. I wonder if Chihiro Academy would come up with something new to make Kaing, who had not been defeated in the preliminaries, lose in the first game? Kaing had never lost any battle he could play. This was the same as the deputy captain Zhu Huking, who looked ridiculously strong. In secret, Kaing was often compared with others in terms of combat effectiveness, and it was finally concluded that although he only had a level 33 soul power on the surface, if he really entered the actual battle, he could defeat a level 35 or 36 soul master. Even a soul master of level 38 or 39 is not without the power to fight. Kaing, a member of the Royal Dou Team 2, defeated his opponent by 3 levels and tied his opponent by 5 levels. To outsiders, he was simply terrifying. And Zhu Huking's personal combat level made all the teachers and team members of the academy who had compared combat power take a deep breath. The reason is that in terms of personal strength, Zhu Huking is too invincible at the level of Soul Master. In the preliminaries, no opponent encountered Zhu Huking to the point of exhausting his soul power. Even Yu Xiangxin, the captain of the Thunder Academy team, did not do this. And now, in this one-on-one environment, Zhu Huking is even more powerful. As the last game is about to begin, Dou Royal Academy and Blazing Academy are also preparing to go on stage. Uranium, Zhu Huking, Kaing, are there really only 3 of you? As they walked, a team of fire-colored figures walked in front of them, and the one who spoke was Hou Wuxiang. The 6 team members behind him were all looking at the leader, Uranium. I didn't expect to fight you on the first day of the promotion match, but we won't lose. Hou Wuxiang looked at you seriously, although I don't know how strong you are, but we will know after fighting once. Hou Wu behind him also had eyes burning with raging flames. We will defeat you, and we will win the championship of the Soul Master competition. Just you. You glanced at Hou Wuxiang, and then at Hou Wu. First, you have to pass Zhu Zhuqing. Your soul power level is not even as good as hers. Zhu Zhuqing's soul power has reached level 45, while Hou Wuxiang is only level 42, and Hou Wu is level 43. At the soul sect stage, the difference of 1 or 2 levels of soul power is enough to shorten the gap between the sensitive attack system Soul Master and the strong attack system Soul Master in a head-on battle. Originally, Zhu Zhuqing was not qualified to participate in the soul sect level battle. Originally, 2 years ago, she was only in her 20s and was a great soul master. But the fairy grass changed her nature. Or in other words, she was cheating. Otherwise, Zhu Zhuqing would only have a soul power level of about level 35 at most. Of course, she was not the only one who had such treatment. All the members of the Shrek 7 Devils were blessed with the immortal grass. There is indeed a gap in soul power, but this is a round-robin battle. Soul power will always run out. I'll look forward to fighting with you, Uranium. After saying that, Hou Wuxiang took a deep look at Uranium, then waved his hand, signaling the team members to return to the waiting area and prepare to go on the field. Hou Wu also gestured to Uranium in a demonstrative manner, and then followed Hou Wuxiang down. Damn it, Captain, they dared to shout in front of us, I will blow them all up later. Kaiying was the first one who couldn't stand the provocation of Hou Wuxiang and Hou Wu, and stood up decisively, saying coldly in front of Uranium. However, Uranium was not moved by the provocation of the other party, but thought of another direction in a slightly strange way. Logically speaking, Zhu Zhuqing is a level 45 soul master, and a strong man with a remarkable record. Judging from the previous record, Zhu Zhuqing is a very big threat in a one-on-one situation. It is very difficult for the 2 soul masters of Blazing Fire Academy to fight against her. But why did Hou Wuxiang go straight to him? He also said that he was looking forward to fighting him. Could it be that Hou Wuxiang was sure that he could beat Zhu Zhuqing in his prime? Just don't kill him. Don't let lust influence you too much. Okay, it's time for you to go out. After reminding Kaiying, Uranium saw that the referee had entered the arena and immediately said to Kaiying, "Oh, okay." Kaiying turned his head immediately and found that a soul master from the Blazing Academy had also walked towards the center of the competition. Without much hesitation, Kaiying hurriedly walked onto the stage. How does it feel to be looked down upon by others? Zhuqing. At this time, Uranium turned his head and smiled at Zhu Zhuqing, who was standing beside him. Even though she was looked down upon by Hou Wuxiang before, Zhu Zhuqing still looked indifferent and did not say any sarcastic words in response at that time. Maybe someone found some weakness. Zhu Zhuqing said very calmly. Oh? Although Blazing Academy is one of the 5 elemental academies, its strength is not top-notch. Even if some research has found some areas that can be targeted, with your ability, as long as you are more careful, there will be no problem. Among them, there is a fire crane martial spirit. The latest novel is first published on the 6th 9-book bar. Uranium shook his head and said with a speculative thought. But it's still very unpleasant to be studied over and over again, especially you. After hearing Uranium say this, Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help laughing. As a spirit master of the agility attack type, my shortcomings are obvious. Isn't this normal? It's just that because of my spirit bones and spirit skills, I look much stronger than ordinary spirit masters. But after all, I'm not a spirit master of the power attack type or the control type. That's why there are spirit master teams, where each uses their strengths to make up for the weaknesses of others. Really? But I feel that so-called spirit masters can achieve all-round development. Uranium frowned and retorted. He was like this, and he felt that he was about to be invincible. But the result of all-round development is that every aspect is not as good as others. I can't run as fast as a spirit master of the agility attack type. I can't attack as high as a spirit master of the power attack type. I can't resist attacks as well as a spirit master of the defense type, and I can't assist teammates as well as a spirit master of the healing type. Zhu Zhuqing continued Uranium's topic. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Soul bones are too precious, not to mention a specific type. For me, there's no need for them in a short period of time. I'm not afraid of flying. At most, I can just rely on my soul power reserves. And even if I meet someone who wants to kill me in the wild, I can run away if I can't beat him. Let's watch the game. It's about to start. Zhu's Huking could sense Uranium's thoughts and smiled and rejected his kindness. Uranium's idea was very simple. Just get a few soul bones that can attack from a distance. As for why it's not a flying type of soul bone, once it flies into the sky and is far away from the ground, Zhu's Huking has no means to fight the enemy at all. It's simply a dead end. On the ground, she can use the Dark Destruction Spirit body to pass through some complex terrains, such as passing through walls, rocks, and even relying on shadow folding to avoid, but in the sky, she can't do this and can only be slaughtered. At Zhu's Huking's signal, Uranium also cast his eyes on the center of the ring. Kang, who represents the Shandao Royal Academy, and the Fire Crane Martial Soul Master, who represents the Blazing Academy. The Fire Crane Spirit Master was a gloomy-looking young man named Huyan, a sensitive attack Spirit Master, and a level 39 Spirit Master. Kang, on the other hand, was a level 34 Power Attack Spirit Master. The difference in spirit power between the two was obvious at a glance. You can release your martial spirits now. The referee's voice sounded. In an instant, the light of the main arena in the center reappeared. Chapter 295, Kang vs. Huyan. The Scythe of Slaughter shows its power. As the referee's voice sounded, Huyan from Blazing Academy was the first to summon his martial soul, Fire Crane. A pair of gorgeous wings instantly spread out behind Huyan, and the burning flames formed a bunch of feathers, which were bright and real. At the same time, Kang also summoned the Dark Devil Scythe and rushed towards Huyan without hesitation. Kang understood that although Huyan was a spirit master of the agility attack system, he also belonged to the flying system. What he had to do was to close the distance and then directly chop him down. Although there was a big gap between the spirit power of the two, Kang was not afraid, so at this moment, he also showed an amazing fighting spirit that made the Fire Crane Spirit Master's scalp numb. He actually dared to take the initiative to attack. Huyan frowned slightly, and after thinking about the opponent's record, his expression was slightly condensed, and the spirit power flowed through his body. He immediately flapped his wings and flew directly into the sky without a run-up. Although it was beyond the attack range of the spirit skills of ordinary spirit masters, it was just stuck within the height limit stipulated in this spirit master competition. But this height was beyond Kang's reach. This is exactly the tricky part of flying spirit masters. Before they have long-range spirit skills, it is difficult for ordinary spirit masters to attack flying spirit masters flying in the sky. Kang was fast enough, but he still missed. How to fight in the sky? Kang frowned, jumped a few times, retreated to the center of the competition stage, and set his eyes on Huyan in the sky, thinking about how to deal with it. Humph, a mere level 34 spirit master wants to compete with me in spirit power reserves. Although he can defeat 7 in a row in the past, he can only do this with the help of 6 auxiliary spirit masters. If it were me, it would not be difficult to do it. Huyan, who was in the sky at this moment, couldn't help thinking in his heart after seeing Kang did nothing. Forget it, I'd better get rid of him as soon as possible. Flying in the sky also consumes my spirit power. After flying into the sky, Huyan began to move. The first spirit ring on his body lit up. He first circled in the air for a few times, and then he flew towards Kang without hesitation. Cry. A sharp cry sounded, and the Soul Master with the Fire Crane spirit rushed directly towards Kang. Their bodies were filled with thick flames, and a pair of gorgeous wings were spread out. The edges of the wings were extremely sharp, burning with rose-red flames. The first soul skill, Flame Wing Attack. Of course, using the advantage of flying in the sky to drag the Soul Master to death on the ground is a good strategy, but there is one thing to pay special attention to. This is the Soul Master competition, and every minute and every second is important. If it were in other places where life and death were fought, Huyan might still use this advantage to grind the enemy to death, but here, in the eyes of countless Shandao Empire high-level officials, he wanted to fight more. In Huyan's heart, there was also an idea to defeat Kang head-on. This was a member of the Shandao second team who won all the preliminaries. In this single challenge environment, he can prove his strength. Huyan took advantage of the fast speed and flew towards Kang. Here it comes. Seeing Huyan rushing directly towards him, Kang was not surprised but happy. A head-on confrontation? This is exactly what he wanted. As he spoke, Kang moved, and his feet suddenly became a little illusory. Something special was inexplicably generated all over his body, like soul power dissipating all over his body, or like a thin layer of fog, making it impossible to perceive the specific situation. The next moment, Kang stepped on his feet and suddenly floated to the side, and behind Kang, there were still a series of phantoms. Hoenn, carrying the power of soul skills, immediately missed. The first soul skill, Flame Wings, slashed on Kang's residual image, and the momentum was so strong that Hoenn directly crashed into the ground. What? Hoenn's face changed, and alarm bells rang in his heart. Without hesitation, Hoenn, whose attack missed, turned his body directly when he was about to land with his flexible physical fitness, and dissipated the huge potential energy by rotating. After several consecutive rotations, Hoenn landed in a thrilling way. On the competition stage, Kang had been waiting for a long time. Seeing Hoenn landing at this moment, he directly held a dark devil scythe upside down, and the first and second soul rings on his body flashed, forming a blood-red, 2-person-long terrifying giant scythe, which swept directly towards Hoenn. The shrill sound of the wind resounded, and the strong blood color enveloped the whole venue. Kang's second soul skill, the Dark Devil Incarnation, directly made his first soul skill get a greater increase. The first soul skill, the Giant Scythe Sweeps. As a member of the Blazing Academy team, Hoenn is not a weakling in the Soul Master competition. After realizing that he must enter a close battle, he did not hesitate and decisively attached his arm to the wings behind him. Under the gaze of Uranium, Hoenn's second soul skill began to shine, and Hoenn's arm actually merged with the flame wings behind him, and then suddenly exerted force, raised his wings horizontally, and used the first soul skill again, using the edge of the flame burning at the edge to cut towards Kang's giant scythe. Clang! A harsh sound of metal and iron clashing suddenly rang out in the field. Hoenn's first soul skill, head-on competition with Kang's first soul skill. Ah! A fiery red figure suddenly fell and flew out with a scream in this soul skill competition. What? Ho Wuxiang looked at Hoenn and stood up suddenly, with a look of disbelief on his face. Ho Wu, Ho Yu and others also stood up and widened their eyes. No one expected that Hoenn, whose soul power was 5 levels higher than Kang, would lose in this first soul skill competition? How is this possible? Kang, who is level 34, can actually beat Hoenn, who is level 39. Hoenn was chopped off by Kang's Dark Devil Scythe and fell on the competition stage. He looked painful, and beads of sweat kept dripping from his forehead. However, this pain made Hoenn almost unable to say a word. He clenched his teeth just to prevent himself from shouting. The tingling on his right arm kept reminding him that it hurts here. Hoenn could only cover the wound with his hands, but the bright red blood could not stop pouring out, soaking the team uniform and dyeing the competition stage red. The latest novel is first published on the 69th book bar. Kang's sharp sickle almost cut off Hoenn's wings. Although the wings were condensed by soul skills under the possession of the martial soul, they were not afraid of this kind of cutting. However, Hoenn's second soul skill was to fuse his body with a martial soul, so as to enhance all his soul skills. But at the moment, Kang's cutting almost made Hoenn's arm broken. The gap between martial souls is clear at a glance. The Dark Devil Scythe, the most lethal sickle, is a killing weapon. How could a bird soul master like Hoenn resist it with his wings? Even if the spirits fight hard, it is the weapon spirits that fight, weapons against weapons, and Hoenn is using his wings and sickle to see who is sharper. In this case, the probability of casualties is very high. As a discerning person, Uranium saw all of this. After seeing that Hoenn almost cut off the man's arm with a knife even though his spirit power was 5 levels higher than Kang's, his face became solemn. Lost's lethality is too great. We are just playing a game and have no grudges against him. If this goes on, if we meet a weak spirit master one day, I'm afraid someone might die. Uranium covered his chin and thought about countermeasures. Stop. We admit defeat in the first game. Seeing that Hoenn's injury was not good, the leader of the Blazing Fire Academy hurriedly threw out a white towel and ran onto the stage quickly to protect Hoenn and stop Kang from fighting. And Kang also took back the Dark Devil Scythe spirit, and the scarlet air in his pupils dissipated immediately. In the first game, Kang won. Although he won, Kang still stood on the stage, watching Hoenn being rescued by the healing spirit master and taken away from the stage. This was not the first bloody incident in the promotion match, but it was the most serious injury on the first day. Huan might have to recover from the injury for a long time before he could appear on the stage again. Perhaps, he could not even participate in the promotion match. I'm sorry, Huan from Uchiha Academy. I'm sorry for this injury, but I couldn't hold back at that time. The competition is to try my best to show my strength. If I let you go, it would be even more disrespectful to you. After Huan was carried away and his figure disappeared, Kaing suddenly whispered to the direction where Huan left. At this time, Kaing suddenly felt a tingling pain in his scalp. Looking back hurriedly, Kaing saw the direction of the Uchiha Academy team, a stream of anger that seemed to be real, and mixed with the cold murderous intent of Huan's brother, Huyu. And Uranium also felt a little bit, and immediately cast his eyes on Uchiha Academy. Among them, Huao and Ho Wuxiang's angry eyes seemed to ignite everything. And Huao's gloomy killing intent gave Kaing goosebumps. Do you really want to kill someone because of a mistake in a game? Uranium frowned, and then relaxed again. Brotherhood, Huan was injured so badly, that's no wonder, but Kaing won't lose. The problem is not big, I don't need to worry. After thinking about Huo's feelings, Uranium sighed silently in his heart. Killing weapon, lost is too different from ordinary martial spirits. It was born for killing, and the most suitable for it is probably the endless bloody battlefield, not this kind of spirit master competition. It seems that I need to send Kaing to the Slaughter City in advance, otherwise when Tang San blows up the Slaughter City, there will be no evil spirit masters. Can I still use ordinary people, ordinary spirit masters to sacrifice Kaing? Chapter 296 Kaing defeats 3. The second match continued. Originally, Kaing felt that he would have to fight Huan's brother, Huyu, after sensing his cold gaze, but he didn't expect that it was the Fire Leopard Soul Master who came on the field. Although his name was Fire Leopard, he was an out-and-out strong attack system Soul Master, with a soul power of level 38, one level lower than the Fire Crane Soul Master who just came on the field. But if it was a head-on battle, how could the agility attack system be compared with a strong attack system? Kaing was also a strong attack system, and this match was a strong attack against a strong attack. As soon as he came on the field, the Fire Leopard Soul Master growled with a solemn face, I will avenge Huan, you'd better have some knowledge in your mind, I won't let you off easily. As soon as he came on the field, the Fire Leopard Soul Master started to speak harshly. Then you do your best. Kaing smiled. The pressure on this Soul Master was not as strong as when the captain gave him special training. At most, it would consume some of his soul power. Although the captain set a goal for him to defeat 3, Kaing wanted more. As soon as the words fell, Kaing raised the Dark Devil's Eye, and the fluctuations of the Shadow Soul power were overflowing from all parts of his body. He rushed directly towards the Fire Leopard Soul Master. As a Soul Master of the strong attack system, the Fire Leopard Soul Master did not hesitate, and directly attacked Kaing with his martial soul. The power in his body was madly leaking out, as if he had no intention of cherishing his soul power. The soul ring on his body was bright, and 3 soul skills were used in succession, like a raging fire leopard running at high speed. There was no reservation, as if he was determined to win. However, if someone was interested, it would be easy to see that every time this Fire Leopard Soul Master stepped on the ring, every step would step out a ball of fire. It was like a ball of hot fire, as if it was going to ignite the entire ring. The next moment, the two collided with each other. Boom! Exclamation mark. A strong wind pressure attacked the entire competition stage, and the few spectators closest to the competition stage were blown away by the shock wave, but the few people from the Blazing Academy were mentally prepared, and they all stepped back, raising circles of dust. During the collision between the two, the Fire Leopard Soul Master, who was possessed by the spirit, stared at Kaing closely, with burning flames wrapped around his body, and ashes swirling in the air. The light on his body was distorted by the heat, and Kaing's black hair seemed to have some burnt curls. The Fire Leopard Soul Master used his second soul skill, the Flame Claw, to forcibly block Kaing's Dark Devil's Eye. It seemed that the first and third soul skills were also for the body and the increase of the flame, so he was not afraid of the sharp sickle blade at all. Bang! The Fire Leopard Soul Master retreated a few steps and collided with Kaing again. The sharp claw shadow carried a raging fire, as if to ignite everything. Kaing frowned, and after noticing that his body was also on fire, he no longer tried to fight the Fire Leopard Soul Master head-on, but chose to fighting and retreating, otherwise he would be in danger of being burned. Time passed little by little. On the competition stage, Because of Kaing's fighting ideas, the Fire Leopard Soul Master felt more and more that he was being led by the nose, and he could not do anything to the opponent. If this continued, he would lose. There was no other way, he could only sell a flaw first, quietly exposing his weakness in order to fight back, the Fire Leopard Soul Master thought secretly in his heart. When Kaing saw the Fire Leopard Soul Master's appearance, he seemed to realize something and immediately pretended to be tricked. He directly aimed at the Fire Leopard Soul Master's chest with a sinister counter-teasing move. Third soul skill, Firebomb. As Kaing approached, a ray of brilliance burst out of the Fire Leopard Soul Master's eyes, and he directly increased his soul power to the limit. With a fierce roar, his hands suddenly clawed at Kaing's magic sickle martial spirit, and the flame soul power also burst out in all directions. You fell into the trap. The 7 dark blue, fully burning firebombs of the Fire Leopard Soul Master almost touched the corners of Kaing. But just as the explosion of the flame bomb sounded, Kaing's body almost turned into a black line and suddenly moved away from the Fire Leopard Soul Master, and the rapid rush turned into a rapid retreat. Such a speed made the surrounding people exclaim. Boom! The flame bomb burned in vain, not even touching Kaing's hair. What? The Fire Leopard Soul Master was shocked and angry. Looking at Kaing's rapid speed, his face became more gloomy. I haven't lost yet, just one more time. With the last soul power, the Fire Leopard Soul Master did not give up. He quickly attached the flames to his claws. A fierce gust of wind suddenly emerged from in front of him, and it was mixed with a piercing sound of breaking wind, and fiercely slashed at Kaing's head. But the next moment, just when the Fire Leopard Soul Master was still thinking about a Jedi counterattack, Kaing once again showed his swift speed, almost dodging the opponent's claws in a split second, and then placed the Dark Devil's Eye steadily on the Fire Leopard Soul Master's neck. The Fire Leopard Soul Master's body froze instantly. Don't you understand yet? You have already used up all your soul power in that burst just now, which also means that you have already lost. Kaing said lightly. At this time, the referee's voice also sounded at the right time. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. The second match, Star Dou Royal Academy wins. With a fair decision of the referee, Fire Leopard Soul Master couldn't help but question Kaing after seeing Kaing's Dark Devil's Eye so steady that it didn't even cut a hair on his body. Aren't you very skilled in controlling your martial spirit? Why did you use such a heavy hand on Huyan? Kaing shook his head silently and apologized. The Fire Crane Soul Master before, he directly used his arm and soul skills to chop at me. During the battle, I could only fight with all my strength and couldn't hold back. I'm sorry for causing that. As for you, because I already knew that I would win in the end, I paid special attention. Fire Leopard Soul Master choked for a moment, his expression was a little depressed. But then he recovered, patted Kaing on the shoulder and said, I lost this time, I admit it, but the promotion match is a cycle, we will meet again sooner or later, next time, I won't lose to you so easily. I'll look forward to it. Seeing that the other party didn't seem to have any resentment, Kaing also encouraged him. After that, the Fire Leopard Soul Master returned to the waiting area of the Blazing Academy team without looking back. The third game was about to start. This was the most critical and tricky part of the promotion match. There was no rest in the game, one game after another, until the Soul Master's soul power was exhausted. Kaing fought against the substitute Soul Master of Blazing Academy, the 37th level Soul Master, Zio 2, the Fiery Horse Martial Soul, and the Agility Attack Soul Master. Because there were 7 people to play, and 2 of the regular members of Blazing Academy were auxiliary Soul Masters, so 2 substitute Soul Masters took over the other seats. And Kaing faced one of them. Chapter 297 Zuzuking Fights. Soon, Kaing and Zio 2 started fighting. Because many Soul Masters were consumed in the first 2 games, especially the one with the Fire Leopard Soul Master, Kaing had a particularly hard time in the third game. Zio 2 was a beast martial soul. Although he was a horse, he did not turn into a horse directly, but his speed became extremely fast. The flames on his body were like gusts of flaming wind, and they kept spinning in the competition arena as he moved. The opponent was fast and the flames were difficult to deal with. Kaing knew that if he chased him with all his strength, he would definitely catch up, but the speed of soul power consumption would increase significantly, which was not worth the loss. There was no way, he could only play steadily. He was able to use the guerrilla fighting tactics with the Fire Leopard Soul Master before, because he was bullying the strong attack system Soul Master who was not fast enough. At present, Kaiying was a combination of the agile attack system and the strong attack system. He ran faster than the strong attack system, and his attack power reached the first-class level among the strong attack system soul masters. Even if he was a full-time agile attack system, he could catch up if he used his soul power with all his strength. However, at this moment, because of the excessive consumption of soul power, he also fell into the same embarrassing situation as the Fire Leopard Soul Master before, and was led by the opponent. The tactics of the Flame Horse Soul Master were very peculiar. He circled around Kaiying directly on the competition stage, and entangled with Kaiying with soul skills. In a faint sense, Kaiying felt something was wrong. Because from beginning to end, this Soul Master had been using the third soul skill, and the purple soul ring kept lighting up, but Kaiying didn't know what this hidden soul skill was. Until the end, the third soul skill of the Flame Horse Soul Master took shape. On the competition stage, it seemed as if a sultry firestorm had been set off. The flames burned, forming a tornado-like flame that soared into the sky. Kaiying was shrouded in it. At this time, he noticed that there was a series of flaming footprints on the ground, which faintly formed a circle. Is this the fire that the Fire Leopard Soul Master stepped on at the beginning of the battle with me? How could this form such a huge soul skill? Kaiying was shocked. Suddenly, he realized that he had underestimated these opponents who rushed out of Xiandao City. However, no matter how intense the burning is, it has nothing to do with me. Even if there is only a little soul power left, I will not be defeated so easily. Kaiying's eyes condensed slightly, and he directly activated the third soul skill, the Shadow Step. The icy blue illusory figure rushed out of the burning circle and came to the edge of the competition stage, which was also the only normal place left. At this moment, Kaiying's soul power was only the last bit left. Xiaotu, the Flame Horse Soul Master, and Kaiying looked at each other. You don't have much soul power left, right? Why don't you decide the outcome with one move? Kaiying suddenly said to Xiaotu, as if he was tired of the previous wandering battle. Haha, do you think I don't know what you are thinking? Your soul power is almost dry. I just need to keep dragging it out. I will win. Xiaotu smiled and exposed Kaiying's strategy. Indeed, the Fiery Horse Soul Master still had at least 1/3 of his soul power left. He only needed to continue to drag it out, so he could drag it out until Kaiying could not hold on. If he and Kaiying were to decide the outcome with one move, it was still unknown who would win. Haha, so you don't dare. Kaiying smiled and sneered directly at the Fiery Horse Soul Master Xiaotu. No matter what you say, victory is within my grasp. There is no need to take risks. Just wait to lose. I won't be fooled. Xiaotu completely saw through Kaiying's thoughts and responded decisively. He really didn't dare to go up, because he felt that Kaiying still had a little soul power. If he rushed up directly, he might lose. So Xiaotu didn't dare to gamble and chose to continue to drag it out. That's fine. Anyway, His Majesty is still watching. I want to see if His Majesty will also watch us for an hour if I drag it out for an hour. Oh, no, maybe I can drag it out for 2 hours. At this time, Kaiying said something to Xiaotu softly, and glanced at Emperor Zuyi with a mocking look on his face. You actually threatened me with His Majesty? Xiaotu asked in shock and disbelief. Yes, that's what I thought. How about a grand battle? You are still so cowardly in the promotion match. This is a one-on-one battle. Is it appropriate? This kind of place where personal strength and quality are displayed, whether it is victory or failure, it is not shameful. Do you still want others to give you a nickname, such as the Bladder Master? Or the Pioneer of the Cowardly Tactics? Ho ha ho ha. Kaiying seemed to have thought of it and suddenly laughed. Xiaotu, who was on the opposite side, was stimulated by the laughter and his face turned pale. After all, he was also a young man in his 20s. If there was really a rumor in the future that he was a coward and would rather let His Majesty wait for 2 hours to drag the other party to death, then he might as well die. Who wants to bear a bad reputation? Damn it, I'll make you understand. You think you can beat me with one move? It's wishful thinking. Xiaotu, who is a flame martial soul, is a hidden emotional creature. He was stimulated by Kaiying and immediately used all his soul power and rushed directly towards Kaiying. Come on. Kaiying roared and rushed over. In an instant, it was like Mars hitting the earth, and the air around him solidified a little. Xiaotu carried the greatest soul power and condensed it in the first soul skill Flame Jet. Like a torrent, he suddenly passed through Kaiying's suddenly virtual figure. And Xiao himself also passed through Kai Ying's body that suddenly opened the shadow step. At this moment, all of Xiaotu's attacks failed, and the fierce flames of the flame jet sank into the burning firestorm on the side, without a single wave, and even made this huge tornado burn more and more fiercely. The two passed through each other, and Kai Ying's figure also condensed. Kai stood behind Xiaotu, while the opponent had frozen in place, not daring to move at all. It's over. Xiaotu's face was pale. It's really over. Kai's darkened scythe turned back quietly and cut off Xiaotu's red hair, but did not hurt the opponent at all. In the third game, Kai won. I shouldn't have fallen for the provocation. I was too impulsive. Xiaotu smiled bitterly, slapped Kai's darkened scythe away, and said with a look of loss. The darkened scythe, after being slapped by Xiaotu, suddenly dissipated and turned into countless soul power lights and shadows, which were scattered everywhere. Xiaotu was stunned. You lied to me. You actually squeezed out even the last bit of soul power. Xiaotu turned back suddenly, and after seeing Kai's pale face, he couldn't help but sigh. As long as I delay for another quarter of an hour, I guess you won't be able to use even your third soul skill. The firestorm is right next to you, and you will definitely continue to use your soul power to resist. It was very difficult for you to even condense your martial soul just now, so how can you talk about defeating me? The latest novel is first published on the 69th book bar. Haha, that's true, so you are still too young. I think the captain did the same to me back then. The method of provoking others will never go out of style. Kai forced a smile, with a few sweat stains on his forehead. Okay, I admit defeat, but next time, don't try to use this trick to trick me again. Xiaotu said. Referee, I won this round, but I also lost. Kai suddenly shouted to the referee. He no longer had the soul power to condense his martial soul, completely, not a drop left, so next time, it would depend on others. After saying that, Kai glanced at Xiaotu and said softly, why don't you take your firestorm? However, it was Xiaotu's surprised look that responded to Kai, take it? Why? This is the feast that Uchiha Academy prepared for you, Sharingan Royal Academy. Otherwise, why do you think I am on the court? Kai's face froze immediately. Okay, you lose, and I lose too. Let's go. My other team members are still waiting to go on the court. Xiaotu left the court, and then another substitute soul master, the Flame Chicken Martial Soul, the 41st level strong attack war soul master, Homeng, came on stage. On the Sharingan Royal Academy side, Zhu Xiuqing took over Kai's position. Pay attention to that firestorm. I can feel that it has not reached its limit. Unless I take action, it cannot be expelled. It is too big. Suddenly, Uranium spoke to Zhu Xiuqing. He understood the plan of Uchiha Academy. There is such a fire tornado that absorbs flames and releases heat energy. As long as there is a continuous injection of flames, it will become hotter and more terrifying. Perhaps until the end, its explosive power will be unimaginable to others. Well, I know. The cold Zhu Xiuqing nodded slowly, and then turned her attention to her opponent. The referee's voice sounded at the right time. The fourth game begins. Boom. Homeng's body suddenly burned with raging flames, and his flame chicken martial spirit instantly appeared behind him, and then he completed the possession. However, his martial spirit is not the chicken flapping its wings in everyone's eyes, but a human martial spirit, walking upright, with a V-shaped coxcomb on the forehead, a head of white feathers, sharp claws wrapped in bandages, and strong and powerful legs covered with feathers. This martial spirit also indicates that Homeng's melee level is quite high. I found that once I post my writer's words, which are these last few sentences, there is a high probability that I will stop updating because of various trivial matters. I won't say it anymore in the future, never again. I have been busy with farm work some time ago. I thought that everything would be fine when I got home, but I didn't expect that there are still several acres of land at home, plus several vegetable gardens that have not been cultivated. My grandfather is old and my father works away from home, so I have to do all the farming. My job is to cut sweet potato vines, dig sweet potatoes, plant vegetables, turn the soil, water them, and dry the millet. I am exhausted after tossing about every day. I often didn't update at that time because after a busy day, as soon as I saw the computer and typing in the evening, I got annoyed and had no ideas. I just wanted to play games to relax, such as comforting myself that I will definitely update tomorrow and take a rest today. After a whole day of procrastination, I suddenly found that I haven't updated for a week. I felt bad about it, so I quickly typed and updated. It has been like this recently. Farm work is too tiring. I am so tired that I just want to rest and don't want to write. I am even too lazy to send a few chapter notifications. I am confused when I open the typing software. I don't know what I should write. After this year is over, I will rent a house in the city to write. It will be quiet. There are too many trivial things in the countryside. It is just right to let the old man rent the land to others. I can't do it. It's past 4 in the morning now. I don't know what I should do, but it's late at night and I have to write the novel. I hope that I, a dog author who often breaks the update, can continue on the road of being a writer. I am really sorry, all the readers who follow my books, that you have to read a novel and wait for an update for so long. I will keep updating every day in the future. At least, there must be one update. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298 The Tough Flame Warrior. The fourth battle began under everyone's gaze. Martial spirit possession. Zhu's Huking shouted, and her pupils changed color, like those of a Persian cat. Her 5 fingers turned into extremely sharp cat claws with barbs, and her whole body became more fluid. On the other side, Homeng became even more peculiar under the possession of the martial spirit. His hands turned into sharp chicken claws, and his body was covered with feathers. His body became taller, and his hair turned into white feathers, which were gorgeous and scattered behind his back. His entire forearm began to burn with flames, which was very conspicuous. He slowly raised his foot and then stepped down suddenly. With a violent sound of soul power surging, Zhu's Huking's figure suddenly turned into a thin ray of light. In just a few breaths, he was close to Homeng. Looking at Zhu's Huking, whose speed skyrocketed in an instant, Homeng's face suddenly changed, his pupils shrank slightly, and he stared at the black light that was gradually enlarging in his pupils. In the next moment, a breath that was even more ferocious than Zhu's Huking suddenly burst out from Homeng's body. The pair of sharp claws, in the shape of hand knives, made a sharp sound of breaking wind, and fiercely smashed towards the light. As if sensing the fierce energy coming towards him, the light and shadow like a flash of lightning suddenly paused, and the body instantly moved sideways, and then strangely appeared behind Homeng. Netherworld stab. Zhu's Huking's body slightly rotated, and during the cat claw's sudden attack, the energy was lingering, carrying the soul skill to stab out heavily. At this moment, there were actually some sonic booms in the air. Bang! With a low muffled sound, Zhu's Huking's soul skill fiercely stabbed Homeng's back. The dull sound made the people around him tremble. Crack! Several cracks spread rapidly from where Homeng stood. From this, it can be seen how swift and powerful this attack was. Surprisingly, Homeng actually managed to hold on. What a fast speed! But Zhu's Huking, do you really think that the defense amplified by the scorching storm environment is so easy to break? After being hit by Zhu's Huking, Homeng's body trembled violently. After a short silence, his left foot suddenly kicked violently behind him, and a dull sound came out of his mouth. First soul skill, flaming coat. Boom! Zhu's Huking suddenly felt the temperature on Homeng's body rise rapidly, and immediately stepped back a few steps, looking at him vigilantly. Homeng was bathed in endless flames, but there was no pain on his face. He was obviously immune to the high temperature caused by the flame soul power he generated. However, this distorted environment was extremely disadvantageous to Zhu's Huking, because she was a melee agile attack soul master. Damn, it's actually a coat formed by flames. Zhu's Huking gritted her teeth and prepared to use the soul bone skill, but she was shocked to find that there was no shadow around. Zhu's Huking turned back abruptly, looking at the blazing storm that was growing bigger and burning more fiercely, and then moved his eyes to Homeng's feet. No shadow. Impossible. Zhu's Huking murmured, and then saw Homeng's solemn expression, and realized that a blazing academy was well prepared. If a shadow is to be produced, then there are 2 necessary conditions: light and opaque objects. Fire is energy released in the form of light and heat. Fire is a light source and a luminous body. When light shines on an opaque object, part of the light is blocked by the object and cannot pass through, forming the shadow of the object. Since fire is a luminous body, it emits light in all directions. When there is no obstruction, there is no shadow. The principle of shadow generation is due to the scientific principle that objects block light. Light propagates in a straight line in the same uniform medium and cannot pass through opaque objects to form a darker area. The projection formed is the shadow. However, Ho Meng's shadow has been distorted in this rapidly burning environment and within the range of this blazing storm. But even without the soul-bone skill, I can still defeat you. Zhu Huqing stared at Ho Meng with a slightly fixed gaze, and said softly. Ho Meng on the opposite side, however, was as unshakable as a reef. He did not have the temper or impulsive temperament that most fire attribute soul masters should have, but was extremely stable. Second soul skill, overheating. Ho Meng roared, and the flame-burning coat on his body suddenly shrank a little, not as big as before, but the temperature had increased to a certain extent. This soul skill is to increase one's physical fitness. The more extreme the heat around, the more exaggerated the increase in one's own strength and speed. The next moment, Ho Meng rushed towards Zhu Huqing. Zhu Huqing did not dare to confront Ho Meng head-on, and immediately dodged to the side. And Ho Meng's hand knife with fierce energy flew out close to her waist. The sharp wind, even with the obstruction of soul power, still caused some small bumps on Zhu Huqing's skin. Dodging Ho Meng's attack, Zhu Huqing gritted her teeth and rushed forward. With her loach-like evasion ability and fast speed, she was like a flexible and elegant civet cat, constantly flashing around the former. Every time she appeared, the cat's claws containing powerful soul power would be fiercely imprinted on the opponent's body. However, every time she came into contact, Zhu Huqing's cat's claws would directly touch the blazing flames. As the battle lasted longer, her sleeves began to burn. However, Zhu Huqing did not have long-range soul skills, so she could only grit her teeth. Under the protection of soul power, she was not injured, and the opponent could not even touch her at all. It was just that Ho Meng's increasingly terrifying momentum climbed up step by step, as if accumulating power. Under Zhu Huqing's almost non-stop attack, the Netherworld 100 Claws and the Netherworld Stab were used repeatedly, and the dull sound of bang-bang in the field never stopped. Ho Meng's second soul skill, Overheat, will not only grant Ho Meng a strong defense, but will also strengthen the flame code and weaken soul attacks to a certain extent. The latest novel will be first published on the 69th book bar. A quarter of an hour passed. The battle became more intense. Zhu Huqing, who had lost the means of surprise attack, fell into a hard battle for the first time. After Zhu Huqing exerted her strength and dodged Ho Meng's continuous kicks, and then tried to counterattack, she suddenly felt a tremor in her heart. An ominous premonition broke into her heart. Without hesitation, Zhu Huqing dodged directly when her soul power was rippling. After several consecutive jumps, she came to the blind spot of the competition stage. Her beautiful eyes stared at the center of the competition stage, the blazing, as if it could not be stopped in the fiery storm. She had discovered that Ho Meng would always intentionally or unintentionally inject his flame soul power, or try to get as close to the edge of the storm as possible, and inject his soul power into it, so that it would continue to expand slowly. And in the case of being unable to observe, its energy level was also slowly rising. In just this quarter of an hour, the storm had occupied 4/5 of the competition stage, leaving only 4 corners. Even these few corners were constantly being devoured. In at most another quarter of an hour, the entire arena would be burning. In Zhu Huqing's calculations, even if there was no soul-bone shadow folding, she still had the 4th soul skill, Shadow Control, a soul skill that could be called a divine skill, which was enough to make the final decision. However, Ho Meng in front of her also did not use the 3rd and 4th soul skills, and was holding on tightly. Before she saw the opponent's soul skills, she did not dare to take risks. She wanted to wait for the opponent to launch an explosive method, and then directly use the Dark Destruction Spirit Body to forcibly avoid all powerful soul skills. But now, Zhu Huqing has realized it. If it drags on, and the storm engulfs the competition stage, then the only place for the battle will be the center of the storm. Only the center is safe, but this thing, for the Fire Spirit Master, the amplification is too great. She didn't dare to guarantee that she could defeat the opponent steadily. Maybe Uranium was right. After all, she was not omnipotent. If she continued to stalemate, her spirit power would continue to be consumed because of resisting the heat. In other words, she had to fight quickly. Chapter 299, Countermeasures for Failure. Without hesitation, Zhu Yuqing set off again. This time, she didn't want to hold back, and directly used the fourth soul skill to end the game, and then tried to quickly defeat the players who came on the field later. If she continued to drag it out, the probability of losing was quite high. After all, this was a competition, and she couldn't kill people, so the space fault under the third soul skill couldn't be used. It was a very terrifying soul skill derivative, enough to cut anything, but it couldn't cut the flame. The reason why Zhu Yuqing didn't use the fourth soul skill to end the game immediately was because she had concerns. She knew that her fighting mode had been studied by many teachers of the college teams. Even if others didn't know the specific effects of her soul skills, they could guess it. Therefore, after Zhu Yuqing noticed the killing move of the Blazing Academy against her, she couldn't help but continue to think in her heart, would her fourth soul skill also be considered by the opponent? If the opponent had already considered it, then it might be a very unwise move for her to use the fourth soul skill as soon as she came on the field. Instead of exposing it immediately, it would be better to wait for a moment and try to find some opportunities. But Homeng was too stable. He never used the third and fourth soul skills, only the first and second soul skills, to ensure that he would not fall behind in close combat. If it dragged on, it would be very disadvantageous for her. Therefore, Zhu Yuqing prepared to directly mix the third and fourth soul skills to forcefully defeat Homeng. The third soul skill, the darkening spirit body. In a breath, Zhu Yuqing's figure became illusory, and the whole person's tone was gray, with a hazy color that did not belong to the real world. And this vision attracted everyone's attention. Is this the third soul skill similar to Kang? It's really tricky. Homeng frowned, but still calmly followed a teacher's instructions, and a thicker flame ignited on his body. In an instant, he seemed to be bathed in a fierce flame. Then, Zhu Yuqing ignored the flames outside and rushed towards Homeng. All the heat could not interfere with Zhu Yuqing, who was like an illusory spirit. As long as she got close to Homeng, within 2 meters of him, she could defeat him with the fourth soul skill. Second soul skill, overheat. Homeng shouted, and then retreated instead of advancing. He kicked the ground with his right foot heavily, and retreated dozens of steps in the blink of an eye. He came to the edge of the competition stage, put his hands in a defensive posture, and waited sternly. The next moment, Zhu Yuqing passed through the entire hot storm, and the cold cat claws cut through the burning ring. With a dazzling cold light, he attacked Homeng. Here it comes. The other members of the Chihiro Academy were immediately shocked, and their eyes were fixed on Homeng on the competition stage, hoping that this set of targeted strategies would work, and they would not be killed instantly as other college teams were when they were approached. According to their guess, if Zhu Yuqing wanted to use the fourth soul skill, it seemed that he had to get close to the opponent's shadow first, or in close contact, before he could release it. And Homeng, who had the flame-burning coat soul skill, not only had his shadow distorted in this burning situation, but he was even more powerful under the amplification of the second soul skill. If Zhu Yuqing's fourth soul skill could not be used, then Homeng had a high probability of defeating Zhu Yuqing. It was this kind of expectation of success that made Hou Wuxiang and Hou Wu's heart rise. If Homeng lost, then there was no need for them to fight next. Zhu Yuqing alone could defeat all the main forces with the fourth and third soul skills before her soul power was exhausted. Finally, the two came into contact. Zhu Yuqing, who was in the dark spirit body, stepped directly towards Homeng. A light flashed in her beautiful eyes. The fourth soul ring on her body immediately shone. The rich purple-black soul ring seemed to be surrounded by infinite soul power. But Zhu Yuqing's face suddenly changed. The fourth soul ring could not specify the opponent in front of her as the target. She looked at the feet wrapped in flames and the distorted air under Homeng's feet in disbelief, and then she suddenly realized that the fourth soul skill, shadow control, also required the opponent to have a shadow. This was something she had never experienced before. Even when she was sparring with Uranium, when she used this soul skill, it was always in a shadowy environment. In the stands, Uranium frowned, and the black fan-shaped icon slowly rotated in his pupils. He saw every move of Zhu Yuqing, as well as the surprise on her face. The fourth soul skill actually has such a weakness. It was not discovered during the previous training. This is difficult. Putting aside the fourth soul skill, it is difficult for Zhu Yuqing to defeat a strong attacking soul master head-on. However, since Zhu Yuqing has realized this, there may be a turning point. But seeing the extremely favorable environment for the Flame Soul Master on the side, It would be a lie to say that he was not worried. The Blazing Fire Academy's method of creating a favorable combat environment is probably similar to that of other elemental academies. Forget about others. Shuibinger from Xianshu Academy can easily turn the arena into a world of ice and snow with her Ice Phoenix martial spirit. The Divine Wind Academy can also create clouds to cover the traces of flying spirit masters in the sky. Alice, I really don't want to go on stage so early. However, encountering such an emergency can also hone you. If I have to solve everything, you will be useless. How to deal with unexpected attacks or situations is also a compulsory course for the growth of spirit masters. Uranium thought about the key points and began to look forward to Zhu Zhuking's next move. The Zhu Zhuking he knew was not a weak woman who would bow her head and admit defeat after a little blow or setback. On the battlefield, Zhu Zhuking realized that the fourth spirit skill did not work, and withdrew without hesitation. After several consecutive jumps, she returned to her previous position, raised her head, and looked at the surrounding fiery storm. The scorching flames distorted the outer air, and the light shone in. The first thing that collided was the gradually expanding fire tornado. But the strange thing was that through the line of sight, the central area of the fire tornado and the sky above it were extremely stable. A bold idea flashed through Zhu Zhuking's mind. On the other hand, Ho Meng couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief after Zhu Zhuking retreated immediately after contact. Then, with a happy expression, he gave a thumbs up in the direction of Blazing Academy. The latest novels are first published on the 6th-9th book bar. This means that the teacher's method of pinning is feasible. Success. Ho Wu's face lit up, and she said excitedly to Ho Wushileng beside her. She knew how Zhu Zhuking crushed the enemy without restrictions. In 1 second, just 1 second, Zhu Zhuking could shuttle to someone else's shadow, and then use a fourth soul skill to control the person, and finally announce the elimination with a knife. Even as strong as she was, the core of the Blazing Academy, Ho Wu did not have the confidence to defeat Zhu Zhuking one-on-one. In fact, she could only guarantee that she could barely last a few seconds longer than others. Therefore, facing Zhu Zhuking's unparalleled strength in the preliminaries, they had to rack their brains and finally figured out such a hot storm that changed the terrain and needed to be continuously injected with flame soul power to maintain. The cost of its formation requires a lot of soul power, which can be clearly seen from Kaing's easy defeat of 3 soul masters. However, its value is also large enough. Injecting flame soul power will make it more and more inflated, and as long as this firestorm exists, it will continue to provide amplification for flame soul masters, provide faster soul power recovery, provide soul skill enhancement, and even weaken hostile soul masters. Chapter 300, The battle situation is intense. At this moment, Ho Meng looked at Zhu Zhuking on the other side and began to take an offensive stance. On the other side, Zhu Zhuking was panting slightly, and drops of hot sweat kept coming out of her forehead, falling to the ground with a hissing sound. She was under a lot of pressure. The fourth soul skill could not be used, and Zhu Zhuking didn't know whether the bold idea she just thought of was feasible. If she made a mistake, then this game would be lost. Ho Meng in front of her was a strong attacking soul master, and there was also a blazing storm to help her, while she was a sensitive attacking soul master, and it was too disadvantageous to fight head-on. There is no other way, I can only give it a try, otherwise if I continue to drag it on, my chance of winning will be even lower. Fight. Zhu Zhuking gritted her teeth, turned her head and rushed towards the center of the blazing storm. Boom. First, a thick smell of burning came to her face, and Zhu Zhuking only felt a tingling scalp, as if her whole body was engulfed by the surging heat. However, with the protection of soul power, this feeling that the body was about to burn out was just an illusion. The next moment, Zhu Zhuking successfully broke into the center of the fiery storm. The surroundings were very calm. Although it was still hot and even hotter than the outside world, it was not completely covered by flames. The temperature inside was even higher. It's very hot here. I need to use my soul power to support it, otherwise there is a risk of burns. The ground is also very hot, and the air around is distorted by the high temperature. Fortunately, this tornado is hollow, and the sunlight above can shine directly in. Zhu Zhuking looked at the surrounding environment, wiping the hot sweat while thinking in her heart. While thinking, she unbuttoned her shirt and took it off, revealing the lining team uniform. She tied a knot at the waist with the arm of the shirt, looking like she was ready for the last fight. She had to gamble. The fiery storm outside would sooner or later submerge the entire competition stage. Although it was more uncomfortable inside than the outside world and the soul power was consumed faster, it was also the most suitable place for fire attribute soul masters to fight. Therefore, the strong attack soul master named Homeng had a certain probability of coming in directly. But the more likely possibility is that Homeng is as steady as a mountain, waiting outside to waste his soul power, and then she can only surrender. I didn't expect that my first battle would be so difficult. It seems that it is just as Uranium said. The preliminaries lasted for a whole month. If they still can't think of a tactic against me, then all these colleges are pigs. Zhu Huqing smiled bitterly, sweat dripping continuously, and the sour sweat moistened the corners of her eyes. If the light was not distorted, and the flames all over his body destroyed the necessary conditions for the existence of shadows, it would be easy for me to win. Alice, I am still thinking about this kind of if. I have to cheer up. I am not so weak. Zhu Huqing calmed down and set her sights on Homeng outside the scorching storm. It seems that Zhu Huqing really has no choice. She actually sought death and rushed into the most favorable environment for Uchiha College. Outside, Hou looked at Zhu Huqing's increasingly pale face and couldn't help but raise a smile at the corner of her mouth. Don't be careless. Once her spirit power dissipates, we will surely win. I hope Homeng doesn't do anything stupid. Hou Shuang's frown gradually relaxed a little, and he said to his sister with a smile. But, with Homeng's temper, I'm afraid he won't tolerate winning by taking shortcuts. Hou frowned, and suddenly thought of Homeng's character, who usually doesn't show off his abilities and only gets excited in battle, and said with some concern. By the way, brother, where did you find this teammate? He seems very powerful. He is only level 41, but he can fight with level 45 Zhu Huqing in close combat, and he hasn't even used his third and fourth soul skills. Oh, he joined by himself. He suddenly joined the class in Blazing Fire Academy just to participate in the Soul Master competition. Although his soul power level is not as high as ours, he is a rare fighting genius. Even with my one-horned flaming dragon martial spirit, I can't even suppress his strange flame chicken martial spirit in terms of martial spirit quality. It's very interesting. Hou Shuang nodded and told Homeng's origins in detail. It turned out that Homeng came from a martial spirit village where all the villagers were chickens. Later, his martial spirit mutated, and his innate soul power was level 8, and his flame chicken martial spirit. It happened that when the spirit Hua was planning to recruit people, he was met by the city lord at that time, so he joined the city lord's lineage, studied for a few years and was sent to Blazing Fire Academy. On the competition stage, Homeng saw Zhu Huqing rushing in, and without hesitation, he also rushed in. Homeng's life motto is, take all battles seriously, whether you win or lose. And seeing Zhu Huqing's soul power being consumed by the fiery storm until she admitted defeat, this was a very humiliating battle for him, which was not in line with his martial virtue. Fight, and then win. Very simple. Homeng's speed of passing through the outer layer of the storm was faster than Zhu Huqing's, all of which came from the affinity of the fire attribute. These flames not only did not hurt Homeng, but even provided him with a little increase in soul power. At this moment, he was standing opposite Zhu Huqing. The battle has not yet been decided. Homeng's low voice echoed in the center of the storm, but was completely annihilated in the constantly rotating burning soul power. Zhu Huqing exhaled, her eyes full of sharpness, and rushed directly towards Homeng, but she did not rush straight, but tapped her toes lightly, forming a Z shape. Her speed was very fast, and a series of afterimages flashed by. The latest novel is first published on the 69th book bar. However, this time, Homeng no longer relied on the amplification brought by the first and second soul skills to defend himself, but instead put on a fist stance with a center of gravity at the back, and a fiery red light suddenly ignited on his claws. The light was not big, but it was frightening. At this time, Zhu Huqing also observed that Homeng's third soul skill began to light up slightly. A second later, Zhu Huqing approached Homeng brazenly and used the second soul skill directly. The netherworld 100 claws swept out with a shrill wind and grabbed Homeng's chest. If he grabbed it firmly, at least a layer of skin would be lost. But at this moment, Homeng's eyes suddenly lit up. Third soul skill, flame kick. The first to move was not a pair of claws burning with flames, but Homeng's legs, which Zhu Huqing didn't notice at all. He tricked me into focusing on his hand. This was Zhu Huqing's first reaction. Boom. Homeng suddenly raised his right leg high, as if it had gone through countless accelerations. Even the fiery storm was visibly smaller, as if the soul power and flames contained in it were also absorbed by Homeng. The powerful sweeping kick swept towards Zhu Zhuking's shoulder. Bang! The collision between the flames suddenly exploded. Homeng's flaming kick drew an amazing line of fire in the fiery storm, as brilliant as fireworks, and would not dissipate for a long time. And Zhu Zhuking, at the most critical moment, activated the third soul skill, the Dark Spirit Body, and forcibly dodged the soul skill that just carried the field amplification. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.